A busy one, a relaxed one, a hot one for that matter. It's super hot. And the weatherman said that it's somehow it's going to continue for a bit of some time. So be ready for such kind of hot days. And then at some times can get very cold at night. It's a new week. Let's do this. Get ready to do the best that you can. All right, so today in the Iron Politics, I'll be taking a look at what is really happening in Kenya and across the continent. What is happening? Remember, the M23 are still advancing. There is an issue there. Tshisekedi, that is the president, is also planning to have a government of national unity. Are they copying some good example? If you know, you know. National unity. And of course, RSF, they also signed a deal over the weekend to have a parallel government led by the rebel group in Sudan. So a lot is happening in the continent. That is why we really want to understand where the African continent stand and what is the role of other states in as far as this is concerned. Kenya is all at the crossroads. In as far as all this is concerned, we also have Uganda, we also have Rwanda, we have South Africa, etc., etc., etc. Engineer Crispus Wathimba, who is a public policy analyst, Gibson Gesore, advocate of the High Court, Gordon Kachola, who is a foreign policy analyst, and finally, Thomas Omao, governance expert, will be joining me on set. Those are the four gentlemen on the screen. They'll be joining me here at exactly 7. You don't have to miss on that. Vivian, how do you call sunrise in Kiswahili?
In Kiswahili, kupambauka ama ni kupambazuka?
Na machweo ni gani?
Kumepambazuka. Kukipambazuka, that's sunrise. Yeah. I stand na machweo.
Kuna macheo?
So which is which?
So which is which?
Tofauti. Sasa kidogo ni
No, tell me.
Which is macheo, which is machweo?
There is a kidsman who said over the weekend that da has left watoto mayajane. Instead of mayatima, mayajane.
I know, mayajane. It seems like we need to go back and get our Swahili school fees, you know.
My brother, you won. Vivian, how are you doing?
It's the same as when, you know, I don't remember who exactly, okay, I don't want to mention, when she said, "Yaliondoele sipite," very confidently.
We don't want to say.
All right, anyway, it's a beautiful Monday morning, a busy one at that, by the way. It's a busy day, just on the roads. It's really a busy one this morning, and you can clearly tell that Kenya is a working nation. Kenya is filled with people who are ready to just work and make things happen, you know. And today being a Monday, aside from us speaking politics, which Victor will be doing at exactly 7 a.m., we also will be having family check. You know that every Monday we get to discuss different topics, and these are topics that are very, very interesting and engaging. Today will be no different, as our topic of conversation will be, do men learn from their past mistakes? Yes, it may sound subjective.
Yes.
The topic may sound subjective, but we just want to engage you. We just want to get to hear from you.
Mike,
Victor already said
can we just finish that discussion here? That
can
topic?
I just speak fast?
Let me sum it up for you.
We forget and we learn, right?
Yes, we learn.
End of
The
program.
biggest mistake we can make is not to learn from our mistakes.
No,
So you do learn from your mistakes?
That topic is done. So
let me tell you something. We got to speak with people on the streets. We have those vox pops. We call them vox pops, that are just short interviews. We'll get to hear from the guys we talked to on this on the streets concerning that. And I will be having my panelists for that conversation. We'll be having Duncan Juma, who is a life coach. We'll be having Pearl Blessing, who's the director star with Pearl, and then we'll also be having Fred Abok. Fred Abok is a transformation speaker, a pastor, as well as a life coach. You want to stay tuned for that conversation. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Vivian. That will be a very spirited conversation, and I'll be looking forward to it. Away from that, immediately after we are done with the politics, we'll be looking at Inua Jamii, given that It's even a story that is captured on the front page of the Daily Nation. Retirees bear the brand for Ruto as M-Pesa ruled. It's one of the things we'll be looking at, and I'll be joined by Moses Kamau, who is Director for Social Protection and Senior Citizen Affairs at the State Department for Social Protection and Senior Citizen Affairs. So that is a conversation that will be coming up at 8:30. I want you to tune in to that conversation. Good morning, Marie.
Very good morning to you, Mike, Vivian, and Victor. I didn't wade into that particular discussion because I don't want to put it like men, but I think human beings in general, we learn from our mistakes, you know? So that would be an interesting conversation. I would want to know what angle you want to take, especially that now you're just focusing on men and not just, you know, in general.
Humans in general.
I think I'll stay tuned for that. So thank you so much from wherever you're joining us. This is Good Morning Kenya, and you're just in time for the news. Among our top stories this morning is that several Kenyan fishermen and others are killed and trapped in Lake Turkana following an attack from the Sanek community, that is from Ethiopia, and the rural and urban private hospital threatened to withdraw services from patients under SHA over a 30 billion shillings debt, and Kenya to roll out a multiple entry electronic travel authorization for cruise ship tourists in Mombasa. So you stay tuned for those stories and more, but we want to begin right there where the government has deployed additional security to the Kenya-Ethiopia border following a conflict between Kenyan citizens and the Dasanek community members of Ethiopia. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen says the government is in talks with its counterparts in Ethiopia to find a lasting solution to the conflict.
An unconfirmed number of fishermen in Turkana are believed to have been killed on Saturday in an attack by suspected Dasanach fishermen from Ethiopia at the Todonyang border in Turkana County. Confirming the attack, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen said some of the fishermen remain unaccounted for.
IG and our police have responded very well from yesterday up to now. There are some of our citizens who are yet to be accounted for, and it is a challenge which is cross-border.
Murkomen said the attack is believed to have been fueled by border issues, adding that the two governments have begun mediation talks to resolve the tension between the two communities and restore peace.
Na serikali ya Ethiopia, saa hizi mikutano inaendelea ya kuweza kushawishiana vile ya kusaidiana na nchi jirani kwa sababu ya border issues. Now we are working together with the Kenya Defence Forces because it's also an international issue to make sure that we resolve that issue.
The government is yet to confirm the number of casualties of the attack. The government has deployed additional security to the region.
President William Ruto says Kenya is set to roll out a multiple entry electronic travel authorization for cruise ship tourists at the port of Mombasa. Addressing journalists at the cruise ship, terminal, the president stressed that the government's commitment to advertising the country as a preferred tourism destination. He urged the private sector to take advantage of the increased number of domestic and international tourists visiting the country and invest more in the hospitality industry.
President William Ruto was at the cruise ship terminal at the port of Mombasa to welcome the cruise ship Norwegian Dawn, which docked early on Sunday morning with 2,200 passengers and over 1,000 crew members on board. It is here that the head of state stressed his government's commitment to advertising Kenya as a preferred tourism destination, revealing that the country is set to roll out a multiple entry electronic travel authorization to get rid of unnecessary delays for visitors.
We will be changing our visa and our ETA so that we can make it easier and seamless. Let me repeat, make it easier and seamless for those of you who are visiting, so that there is no paperwork, there are no issues, and we have agreed with the management of the port that will be made easy and simple so that visitors can visit our country and our cities.
He revealed that 8 more cruise ships are expected to dock at the terminal before the end of the season. The president further stated that the country revenue from tourism increased to about 450 billion shillings in 2024.
There are opportunities as we increase the number of tourists coming to Kenya. There are opportunities in providing hospitality facilities, from beaches, beach hotels, to other tourist facilities, making sure that we have resorts. And I want to tell the private sector to expand their footprint on making sure that our visitors, as we grow the numbers, we must also be growing the facilities.
Now, in a move that is expected to significantly impact healthcare access across Kenya, the Rural and Urban Hospitals Association of Kenya, that is RUFA, has announced that it will withdraw services from patients under the Social Health Authority, that is SHA, starting Monday, that is today, the 24th of February 2025, due to government's failure to settle over 30 billion shillings owed to private hospitals. Dr. Brian Lishengwa, who is the RUFA chairman, however, said that emergency services will go on as usual, except for the inpatient services. The Rural and Urban Private Hospitals Association of Kenya, which represents a large network of private healthcare providers across the country, cited the government's continued non-payment of claims as the main reason for its drastic action. The debt has placed significant financial strain on hospitals, according to the association's chairman, Dr. Brian Lishanga.
Deni ambalo hizi hospitali zinadai shirika la SHA ni zaidi ya bilioni 30. Na deni ambalo hizi hospitali pia zinadai MKL ama ule mfumo bima ya polisi na walimu ni zaidi ya bilioni 9. Hili ndilo deni ambalo tunaomba ya kwamba lilipwe ili huduma ambazo wagonjwa wanapata wakifika hospitali zikuwe huduma ambazo zinafurahisha na zinaweza kuwasaidia watu wetu.
The move will affect thousands of patients who rely on private hospitals for treatment under the Social Health Authority and the Medical Administrators Kenya Limited. However, Dr. Leshenga clarified that services will continue normally for emergency services and patients admitted before the 24th of February.
Hakuna mgonjwa yoyote ambaye anafaa kunyimwa huduma za dharura kwa sababu ya mabadiliko haya. Wagonjwa ambao walilazwa chini ya mpango wa SHA ama MKL kabla ya tarehe ya kusitisha huduma wataendelea kupata matibabu bila usumbufu wowote. Ikiwa mgonjwa atakuja kuanzia Jumatatu, tungependa hospitali ziambie wagonjwa ya kwamba kuna alternatives. Kunazo alternatives, it is not haitakuwa kuzuia wagonjwa kupata huduma.
RUFA says the government has yet to provide a formal response to their demands.
Ingawaje tulitoa ilani Ijumaa ya wiki iliyopita, mpaka wa sasa hakuna mtu yeyote ambaye amejaribu kuongea na sisi. Na kama chama cha hospitali za kibinafsi tuko tayari wakati wowote kuongea na serikali.
This development follows months of negotiations between the association and the government over the unpaid funds, with little progress made. Now, Sudan's Rapid Support Forces and its allies have signed a charter to form a parallel government dubbed a Government of Peace and Unity. The signatories, including over 20 political parties across Sudan, 10 civil organizations, and 5 military groups led by Rapid Support Forces, inked the deal in a Nairobi hotel on Saturday night. Foreign and Diaspora Affairs Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi says President William Ruto has maintained a non-partisan position. He has also denied that the summit aimed to form a parallel government.
A closed-door meeting of Sudan's rebel group Rapid Support Forces and its allies in Nairobi Hotel Saturday night, after several successive meetings, finally agreed to strike a deal. The parties announced the formation of Sudan Founding Alliance, an outfit that will lead to forming a parallel government in areas under their control in eastern Sudan. RSF represented by Abdel Dagalo, a deputy and brother of RSF commander Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, who was absent, inked the deal with 5 military groups, 20 political parties across Sudan, and 10 civil organizations. The charter also details a resolution to establish a new national army featuring members from all parts of Sudan. This comes hours after President William Ruto engaged United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio and vowed to offer a platform for all warring parties in Sudan to engage in negotiations that will lead to lasting peace and stability. In a statement, Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Musalia Mudavadi, said Kenya welcomes the peace process. Musalia maintaining that President William Ruto has maintained a non-partisan position. He also denied that the summit aimed to form a parallel government.
Thank you, Giverson Maina, for that report. Now the government is crafting
claims
a
of corruption
recruitment process for uniformed officers. Defense Cabinet Secretary Soipan Tuya says that once done, the standard process will be made public as the government strives to rein in on constant claims of malpractices and favoritism while carrying out recruitment of KDF and other disciplines. Achola Simon brings us the details of the story.
Claims of corruption and favoritism have in the recent years rocked recruitment into the disciplined forces, casting doubts on whether deserving Kenyans really get the opportunity to serve the nation.
Hapa kitu natumbua sana CS ni hiyo nomination tuliambiwa ama appointments za vijana kuingia kwa defense. Hata ukiuliza hawa, unajua mtoto gani naona ngao wamekaa pale? Ni mtoto gani ambao mwaka jana aliweza kuingia defense forces? Hawezi kuambia. Sababu last time ujanja ilikuwa hapa, let me speak on this. And I raised this in parliament, na yule alikuweko akaniassume.
Defense Cabinet Secretary Soipan Tuya says a remedy for this is in the offing.
Nataka kuhakikishia Wakenya ya kwamba tunazingatia kwa ukaribu sana kuhakikisha nafasi zote ambazo zinatokea za KDF na all the other security agencies zinagauliwa kwa usawa in an equitable fashion, now eliminating all the malpractices ambazo zimekuwa zikiendelea.
Tuya says once done, the blueprint shall be made public so as to restore confidence and professionalism in the recruitment process.
Na ule ukarabati ama ile procedure ambayo tutatumia kwa recruitment itakuwa in the public domain ili tuweze kuhakikisha kwamba there is transparency na kila Mkenya anaingia pale kwa uwanja kwa njia ya uwazi.
Tafadhali tunapoenda recruitment nyingine, sio tu ya armed forces wala hata hizo zingine security as we talk to you, remember tulidhulumiwa last time, and moving forward tutakuwa marafiki wako wazuri sana.
Addressing faithfuls at Emachuli Church of God, Emhaya, Vihiga County, during a funds drive for the church construction, Tuya also called for peaceful coexistence amongst Kenyans, regardless of their political differences.
Tuimarishe amani. Mimi nikiwa waziri wa ulinzi, ninaomba amani iweze kudumu. County security teams, put your hands together. Make sure we guard our security, the security of our country, jealously.
Sisi tumeingia kwa serikali ya broad based. Tunataka tuendelee na maendeleo. Na ile kitu tunataka kwa nchi hii ni umoja na uhusiano mwema. Kwa hivyo sisi kama watu wa ODM tumesema kwamba tutafanya kazi na serikali ili tuhakikishe kwamba tunapata maendeleo kwa huu muda umebaki.
It's a story of transformation and hope for thousands of residents of Lower Gatanga in Murang'a County as a long-awaited water project finally brings relief to the arid region. For generations, families at Ithanga and Gakuzi's Mutumberi wards have endured unimaginable struggles in the search for clean water, drinking water that is. However, a 3.5 billion shillings project is set to improve their lives.
The sound of water flowing from this tap is like a soothing melody for residents of Ithanga and Kakuzi Mitumbiri wards on the lower region of Gatanga constituency in Murang'a County. Previously, they bore the brunt of searching for this precious commodity.
Niliingia huku mwaka wa 1986 na kutoka hiyo mwaka huwa tunaumia sana juu ya maji. Tulikuwa tunaenda kuchota maji mahali ng'ombe sinakunywa. Tunakuja tunaweka siku 2 ama 3 ndio ikuwe mzuri ya kunywa, lakini ilikuwa inadhuru watu wengi kwa maugonjwa tofauti.
But now it is a new dawn. Ithanga Water Project, initiated by Gatanga Water and Sanitation Company, a subsidiary of Athi Water Works Development Agency, at 3.5 billion shillings is set to benefit over 9,000 people here.
This is where we produce 6,000 cubic meters of water, transmit it a total of 39 kilometers of pipeline.
Tumeweza kuconnect watu 2,000 na tunatarajia ikifika mwezi wa 8 mwaka huu tutakuwa tumefikia ile kiwango.
The ripple effect of the water project extends beyond households. Schools in Ithanga, once crippled by the water crisis, can now focus on their core mandate.
Kila mahali hakukuwa na maji, kila mtu anakuja na mitungi. Sasa wanashindwa watafanya nini kama huko shuleni hakuna maji?
In fact, at one point we were not washing the classes because when they don't even have water at home, telling them to come with water from home was also an issue. So sometimes I could allow them not to come with water. Not to mention that at one time they could hardly get water to drink. And the little water they could get is from the dams which were not clean. In fact, at one incident I got water that was even smelly.
Courtesy of the project, water is sourced from River Thika, purified and distributed across the region, ensuring a safe and consistent supply.
Major challenges that we are facing as we roll out this particular project. One is the climate change that has caused the water levels at our intake facility at Blue Post to be not very reliable, especially during the sunny season.
As taps continue to flow, residents are optimistic waterborne diseases will be a thing of the past.
We are really celebrating that we have clean water which is germs free because it has chloride.
Mifuko yangu sipeleki kwa mto. Vile kulikuwa kusemekana ni upande ya njanga kama yata. Sasa sisi tunasema sasa tuko huru.
Constant water supply marks the end of an era of suffering over a commodity that is no longer a luxury but a basic right.
Thank you, Kamche Menza. A non-governmental organization in Nairobi County is set to address the ongoing need for blood donations through a blood drive that is set to make a significant impact on countless lives. On Sunday, the organization, We Love You Foundation, held a blood drive initiative at the Kenyatta National Hospital. Doreen Arange reports.
Blood donation is a simple act, but its impact immeasurable. We Love You Foundation and partners organized a blood donation exercise at Kenya's largest referral hospital.
We're here at the Kenya National Blood Transfusion Center under the We Love You Foundation to donate blood under Mother's Love so that we can hope that everyone in Kenya can participate in this activity to help us save lives.
We're participating today at the Kenya National Blood Transfusion Center to donate blood as part of a worldwide blood drive that our foundation is holding.
Through the exercise that lasted a few hours on Sunday, 240 pints of blood were realized to assist patients in dire need of transfusion.
Our members have come together in the hope that our neighbors in life-threatening situations due to blood shortages can recover their health and lead vibrant lives.
We love you! We love you! The foundation says its mission is to do everything possible to boost supply at the National Bank.
We look at sports now. The Nyayo National Stadium will host Harambee Stars Group F 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifier tie against Gabon on the 24th of March as part of a test drive ahead of the CAF African Nations Championship in August. The renovated Nyayo National Stadium is one of the football grounds in the country that will host the postponed African Nations Championship, the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations.
The game between Harambee Stars and Gabon will be played at the Nyayo National Stadium. This was confirmed at the end of a two-day inspection tour by a high-level CAF delegation led by Samson Adamu, who is the Confederation's Director of Tournaments and Events. Football Kenya Federation President Hussein Mohamed, who is also the Vice Chairman of Kenya's local organizing committee for the African Nation Championship and 2027 Africa Cup of Nations, confirmed that discussions are underway to have more test matches at the Nyayo National Stadium and the Kasarani Stadium, which will host the CHAN tournament from August 2nd to 30th and also the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations. Harambee Stars currently lie fourth in Group F of the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers with 5 points from 4 matches, behind Ivory Coast with 10 points, Gabon with 9 points, and Burundi with 7 points. The other teams in the group are Gambia, who have 3 points, and Seychelles, who are yet to earn a point from the qualifiers.
The emphasis has always been on the infrastructure, which I think is now 90% ready to just go. So now the focus now shifts to the softer side of the event, means planning, the committees, and the marketing, and all the comms, and the ticketing, and accreditation. So that's where our next emphasis will be on. So come first March, we will now go into full gear to bring in the softer side of the event.
If you go to Kasarani, the pitch is super. You cannot believe that it's a Kasarani that people used to complain about. Generally, even the dressing rooms in both venues are up to the international standards. So we are very satisfied with the work that we have done so far with the support of KTF and particularly the Ministry of Sports.
Group winners will qualify directly for the 2026 Africa Cup of Nations to be played in USA, Mexico, and Canada, with the 4 best group runners-up meeting in playoffs with other confederations to pick further teams that qualify.
Rajiv Thethi and Harpreet Singh Bogai were among winners of the second round of the Shell Autocross Championship that was held yesterday in Kiambu County. A total of 40 drivers competed in the event.
Rajveer Teti won the 4-wheel drive class during the second round of the Shell Autocross Championship that saw hundreds of motorsport fans cheer at the Twisty 2 track circuit. Harpreet Singh Bogai won the 2-wheel drive turbo buggy category. Neil Gohil won the open class, while Jose Sardinia was crowned champion of the 4-wheel drive non-turbo.
We decided to go for the youth. So we identified youth, about 4. We're looking at 4 to 6. And we started walking the journey with them. From some of them 8 years going up. And why? Because we believe if we grow with the youth, if we support this youth in the motorsport, then we will be producing world-class drivers, not in so long.
Cheche Ababu, Cadet Jr., Alan Bengi, Beta Jr., and Sean Njumbi were also winners of the day.
In every sport, it's consistency, it's practice, it's exercise. So those who are starting younger today have, of course, a better chance of shining as long as they remain consistent. And that's why we want to work with them in the journey. We don't want them to drop off. And this autocross, maintaining it and making sure it runs the full calendar and is sustained. And basically, it's something very critical, not only for us here and for the motorsport community, for the country.
The one-day event attracted 40 drivers.
And that story by Bakle Feather brings us to the end of the news this morning. Thank you so much for your time. Do stay tuned for more news updates in our subsequent bulletins. Coming up next is my colleague Victor Lowe with Eye on Politics. I'm Marie Yambo.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with our music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
Then just ask her out.
We were not that close. What if I ask her out and she refuses? It's awkward.
What's awkward about that?
Thank you for liking me and telling me your feelings. But I'm sorry. I'm enjoying my single life right now. I just want to be alone. I just broke free from a marriage and I don't want to jump into another one.
I never heard the music so sweet. I repeat.
Wagwan, me brethren, big things are going. Remember, each and every Monday we have to shell down the place with nothing but the best of smooth reggae vibes in your favorite station. You know these things, man.
Alafu kila Tuesday, kata simu tupo side, giving you Kenyan music from the 254.
And of course, you can spice up your Wednesday by enjoying blazing hot hip-hop and R&B jams.
We don't got no label. She say she want bottles.
Vibes and vibes as we go all across Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, all the way to Tanzania to give you nothing but the best on Afro Thursday. Make sure you make a date with us each and every single Friday with me, DJ_Liza Diva,
DJ Cold,
and me, Wanjiko. This is Club One Extra.
Unanifanya nisikie kunyongwa. Hadija ai, money especially ukisonga.
Wellness is important in our daily lives so that instead of just surviving, we should be thriving.
Ways to prevent a stroke or heart attack is for you to know what conditions you have. By regular checkup, people don't know they have hypertension, they don't know they have diabetes.
I was pre-diabetic. I was afraid of getting lifestyle diseases because I come from a family that has lifestyle diseases.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers.
Stay well and strive to make every day a healthy day.
Technology has become a crucial part of our society. Without technological advancements, so much of our everyday lives would be drastically different. As technology develops, it strives to fulfill the changing needs of society. This means that technology exists to help us achieve the things that we wouldn't be able to achieve without it. Take on Tech looks at the advantages and downside of technological innovation in a world that is becoming increasingly dependent on new digital technologies. Every Monday at 10:30 p.m.
Got the fear of missing out? Want to keep up with all the latest entertainment news and latest celebrity gossip? From the latest rumors to popping events to the newest fashion trends, here is where you get all the tea or juice when it comes to entertainment, and you get it served on time. All that and so much more on Grapevine every single Monday from 10 p.m. and a rerun every Tuesday from 2 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1. Remember, if you did not see it on Grapevine, then it most probably never happened.
Hili yako peke yako malisa, hakuna mtu mwingine anakuingililia. Toa hapa.
Mimi nimeogoja tafadhali. Ni ukule hiyo chakula. Unaonwa saa hii kula. Very good girl. Very good girl. Nini? Tuko na emergency. Ile emergency ya we.
Nipatie hiyo 200.
Mama Kaya ndio wako nayo.
Mama Kaya nipatie 200.
Mimi mutaharibu kazi yangu.
Chukua kunywa kama unataka.
Unaniruhusia maji?
Toka.
Unajua hapo unaweza ungua maji.
Mimi niko sawa, ongeza tu kuni hapa.
Unasikia nanuka kama margarine?
It's so refreshing.
Refreshing?
Naipenda.
All right, welcome back. Good morning. And it's now, what's the time now? It's 6 minutes past 7 a.m. Welcome to the program. This is Good Morning Kenya. Of course, on a Monday, we do talk about politics. And being a Monday, we talk about iron politics. And today, I really want us to get into the subject matter of what's happening across the continent. As I earlier alluded to, I really want us to take a look at, a lot of things happening from Kenya to Congo to Uganda to Sudan. Last week we had, a whole week of talks about Ethiopia and Raila Odinga's loss. That is now in the back burner. But today, let's take a look at what is really happening. A lot of questions and concerns were based on what Kenya stood for during AU election, all right? But then now, continentally speaking, what are some of the things that is affecting Africa as a continent? Are we working as a team, as nations across the continent? Remember, just over the weekend, there was a splinter group that signed a deal to form a unity of, parallel government, that is RSF, here in Nairobi at the KICC. Again, what is happening in Congo is also something to talk about. And let's talk about the issue, the fact that Kenya is also on the radar to have some of the offices here from New York to Nairobi. UNICEF, talk of, we all have UN Habitat here in Nairobi, but a lot more is coming. So I really want us to take a look at our foreign policy and so far what Kenya is doing and other continents. You know what's happening? I have got 3 gentlemen in studio, the 3 wise men. One of them is still missing. He'll be here. Wakili Gibson Gesorge will be joining me shortly in studio. I have got Gordon Kashola, who is a foreign policy analyst. Gordon, good morning. Good morning. Good to see you.
Long time.
Long time. Long time. Karibu sana. Crispus, an engineer by profession. Crispus Wathimba is also a political analyst and a governance expert, also joining me on set. Crispus, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Pleasure to be here.
And Happy New Year, by the way.
Happy New Year to you too.
Karibu sana. Thomas Omao, I got it right, Thomas.
Yes.
Karibu sana. He's a governance expert, also joining me on set. Thomas, karibu.
Thank you, thank you.
Gentlemen, it's a new week. Let me start by asking you, Gordon, and I ask my colleague, how do you call sunrise in Kiswahili?
Macheo.
Not machweo.
Macheo.
Macheo.
Machweo, the sunset.
And midday? Midday?
Adhuhuri.
Okay.
Unaweza kumbuka muziki wa adhuhuri?
Oh yes. Yes. Somewhere along
KBC,
the corridors. Along the
muziki wa
corridors.
adhuhuri.
You are right. Crispus, you are engineer by profession. How are you engineering the country? Are we getting the foundation pretty fine? Are we laying the wires pretty fine? Are we putting the right brick and mortar to build the nation? I'm asking this question intentionally from an engineer's point of view.
From an engineering perspective,
Yes.
in terms of what we promised and the timelines that we had available, which is 60 months for any government, for this current government,
yes,
we are very far behind in a couple of projects that we promised the people of Kenya.
Yes.
A good example is the housing project, because we made ourselves a very ambitious plan of delivering 250,000 houses. So far, I don't think we have done more than 10% of that number. and we are halfway in terms of the term of this administration. So clearly we have a lot of catch up to do. In terms of managing the debt burden, which is accrued because of the various projects that we have undertook, in the last administration. We still have a huge pending bill which affects the ability of many of our contractors to deliver projects going forward. And I think that is an issue that we need to address urgently as a country in terms of meeting our obligations, both with the external debtors, but also with our local suppliers here in this country. Because it's really affecting how we are able to demonstrate credibility as a nation. If we cannot pay our own, and we are very quick in paying others, then what message are we sending out there? Yes.
I see. This is one question I'll also ask all of you, what you think of the past week, what really made headlines for you and what really stood out for you. But let me start that with Thomas. Thomas, what really stood out for you in the past weekend, the past 1 week? What did you take home up to this particular point where we are today?
Okay, what happened, we saw what was happening at KICC. It was very sad for our country. We saw the RSF from Sudan trying to come up with an alternative government here in Nairobi. That was so amazing. It actually caught my attention. And we really need to be concerned as a country. I think the lady who is in charge of advising the president in matters to do with security is a great woman of substance. She's up to the task. And I can't really understand why the lady has not advised the president on the repercussions that will come with the kind of happenings that we saw at the KICC. You realize that what's happening is that we have a military general who is also trying to depose another military general. We can remember that during the uprising, Omar, the former president in Sudan, was deposed in a military coup. So we have a military regime in Khartoum. And now here comes a case whereby a splinter group comes here in Nairobi, the capital of Kenya, and they want to form another government. This implies that there is already instability. And Kenya as a country, I believe that we are losing our luster as a regional hegemony in East Africa and also the Horn of Africa, because we are trying to meddle with affairs of other countries. And the fundamental question that we really ask ourselves as a people is what is Kenya's interest in Khartoum and also the DRC? Because Professor Hans Morgenthau, who writes extensively about diplomas and international relations, tells us that when nations act internationally, they do so to serve their state interests and not personal interests. So as Kenyans, and also as a concerned Kenyan, this is a question that I really asked myself. What's our national interest in Khartoum? And what's our national interest also in the Democratic Republic of the Congo? Yeah, that is what...
Okay. Gordon, what really stood out for you? In the past 1 week, a lot really happened. And the continent was pretty busy. Not Kenya alone. The continent was so busy. But what did you take home, out of all this happening across the country and, of course, across the continent?
From Joburg to Alexandria, from Mogadishu all the way to Dakar, there's so much that is happening. And sometimes we may not get enough time just to speak about the entire continent. But to talk about Kenya specifically, everyone now knows that at least Kenya is taking charge or is yearning to take charge of the conflict in Sudan, which is something very important. But I want us to contextualize something even before we begin this conversation. I want us to contextualize the war in Sudan before we come down to RSF. The war in Sudan did not begin yesterday. The war in Sudan began, it dates pre-independence. So all that long, Sudan has had its fair share of challenges internally and externally. You remember in 1955 to 1972, during the Anyanya One War, headed by Joseph Oduo and the likes of Joseph Lagu of Southern Sudan then, went to exile in Uganda, Kampala, and established a government in exile. Talking of government in exile, RFS is not establishing a parallel government. These are things that we must contextualize. What RFS is doing is forming a government in exile. There's a clear difference between a government in exile and a parallel government. A parallel government is a government that operates within the confines of the country with which they have formed their so-called outfit. But a government in exile is a pressure group that is formed outside the country in which the contest is in due to war or any other reason. So what is happening with RSF is they have formed a government in exile. A government in exile is simply a pressure group because they are not providing services in Sudan. They are not responsible for tax collection in Sudan. They are not responsible for running the government in Sudan. The government in Sudan today is run by Al-Burhan, General Al-Burhan and his team. So the RFS team, headed by Hemeti, is simply having a pressure group in Kenya. And that pressure group will galvanize support, not just in Kenya, but globally, try and get support globally to pressure the government back home. They have recognized that they are not a government at home. That's why they have pulled out and formed a government in exile. So they are going to look for support globally to pressure government back at home to do the right thing with an aim of going back and at least competing in any form of election to ensure they also take power. But I think most of us get it wrong when we talk of parallel government. It's not. So in that contextualization of Sudan war is based on three major things. Economics, the economy of the Sudan, it's based on military, and it's based on power matrix. Because remember, the area that has had all challenges is Darfur. Darfur in itself is the size of Spain as a country. Darfur has gold, Darfur has oil, Darfur has cobalt, Darfur is the largest exporter of cattle in Africa to the world. So that alone gives Darfur the global map on what it is capable of doing. So before even we look at RFS and what they stand for, what Kenya means in all this, if we contextualize this, we will get it right. Remember, RFS will not be the first group to form government in exile. The oldest government in exile was formed in 1919 in Belarus. Yes. It's called the Rada BNR. The Rada BNR was formed in 1919. It exists today. Many countries have formed government in exile, including France, including Poland. Yes. They have formed government in exile. Okay. So that's alone, I think if we first get that basis, then we will be having a clear picture of what Kenya intends and where our foreign policy is leading us to.
Crispus, when this was happening, based on what you said, and you correctly put it, just to lay the ground moving, when you look at what was happening in Nairobi, it was completely unprecedented. Nobody saw it come until the previous night that people woke up to that news that there was a splinter group, you know, RSF was at the KICC. The whole thing was sanctioned by the government, and the government was aware they were here. But let's look at it this way. Kenya is not a young boy in the continent. Kenya is a big boy in the continent, and everybody's looking at us, the way we handle ourselves, the way we clothe, the way we walk, the way we talk, and the way we handle ourselves in general. But what do you think is the message that is now getting out there after this function?
I think for me, it's the timing of all this, because the week before we had the election of the AUC chair, and Kenya lost. And immediately after Kenya lost, because it's not Raila who lost, it's Kenya that lost.
Yes, sure.
We have this RFS forming now what my colleague is alluding to be a government in exile or a competitive administration in exile. So that timing is very suspicious and probably might be able to tell us as to why some countries were not willing to support our candidate. Because probably we have things that we were doing that other countries came to know that may not have sent the right signal as a country that wants to provide the leadership of the commission. Because if you are the AUC chair and your government is also trying to meddle in other affairs of another country, then how do you provide the kind of leadership the AUC is expecting, where you're supposed to be a neutral?
Yes.
You're supposed to be neutral to all member states. But now here, your own administration is assisting another government, another opposition, or let's say the opposition of another state, to form an administration. And yet you want to seek the leadership of EAC. So there are issues that we need to ask ourselves that, are we honest to our neighbors? Are we good neighbors? Are we transparent in terms of how we engage in our foreign policy? But even if we are not honest, what is the end game? America, the British, the European have always interfered in the affairs of the global south. That is how they do their business. That's how they make money. So probably Kenya is also saying, on this part of the continent, why don't even us ourselves as a country change how we do our foreign policy? And probably if we interfere, we might take an advantage. We might be able to push our interests in those areas. I'll tell you the truth is that at the moment, there seems to be a lot of influence. Funds from people who are running away from Sudan into this country. The same way we saw early times, in Kibaki times, there was a lot of money coming from Somalia, coming to in this economy. So probably that is a whole agenda, that we give an opportunity for those who have resources in another country and they don't have a safe place to invest. Maybe we can give them that room. And by this attempt to say we are allowing all the players to have to accommodate themselves.
Are we being too soft?
It could look soft, but it's a strategy. Kenya is strained financially. We don't have enough resources to do whatever we want. So it doesn't matter where these resources come. Maybe they are giving it a blind eye. We are being blind to the sources of these funds. But what we want is to have money coming into our economy to make it liquid. I mean, Dubai is doing the same. Dubai is open to anybody who comes with resources. They don't ask where that money comes from, but they accommodate everybody. So probably Kenya wants to be that player in this part of the continent, that we are allowing those who are fighting each other, wherever they are fighting, to come and be accommodated here, to find peace. And as they find peace, come with your money and we'll keep it safe for you.
Yeah. Thomas, when the late president, Mwai Kibaki, actually brokered a deal not so far away from Nairobi, Naivasha, after years of turmoil, until, when you even look at the flag of that country, it's more or less Kenyan flag, all right? But now all this is happening and a charter was signed at the KICC. So what do you think is going to be the end game?
This is what's likely to happen from where I sit.
Yes.
History has recorded quite a significant number of things, as my brother had said. In the year 1991 to 1996, we had that particular notorious leader of Al-Qaeda by the name Saddam Hussein. During that period, the gentleman was living in Sudan. During that period, he heavily invested in agriculture, the banking sector, and also the construction industry. The fellow was very, very rich, and he employed quite a good number of people. So what happened is that Kenya during that period, during the Moi era, Kenya appeared to be leaning to the West, and in particular, the United States of America. So what was the end game during that period? You saw what happened here in Nairobi in 1998. We had a bombing, a bomb blast, whereby over 200 Kenyans lost lives. So what am I really trying to talk about? As we are currently speaking, Sudan is in the terrorist group, has been categorized among the terrorist countries by the United States of America. So in as far as Kenya is dealing with this matter, we really need to be very, very much careful. And the military generals in Sudan, or in Khartoum, as I'll put it, have a serious interest in the happenings, and they are able to do anything at their behest. For example, as I said, Osama bin Laden was supporting various rebel groups in that country, and also terrorist groups. So we are also told that he had made a lot of connections with the military generals, with the government officials, and I'm not shy away from saying that part and parcel of the people that he worked with during that regime are the current military generals. So in as far as President William Ruto is supporting the RSF, I think he really needs to be advised about the consequences. Yeah? Is Kenya likely to suffer? And are the Kenyan people likely to be a collateral damage in these happenings? Because I really fail to understand, and I think my brother can tell us more, to understand Kenya's interest in that region. Because I don't really think whether we have any national interest in as much as this conflict is happening in the region.
We never know.
And as I said, my brother, is that if we are not careful enough, the innocent Kenyans are likely to be a collateral damage. Because those military generals are able to do anything within their capacity to ensure that they retaliate. And we saw the letter they sent, and they sent a very strong message that Kenya is a signatory to the United Nations Charter, also the signatory to the Constitutive Act of the African Union. So I don't really think whether we have any serious reason as to why we meddle in affairs of other countries while we have our own affairs to deal with as a country.
Let's take a break. And when you come back, there's a gentleman called Idris. Idris is a former official and head of an armed group. And he said that the government's formation will be announced from inside that country in the coming days. The charter was signed here in Nairobi, but the announcement and the formation of that government will be announced in that country. What does that really show? All right, let's take a break and we come back much more after this. Stay with us.
Hii ni yako. Peke yako malisa, hakuna mtu mwingine anakuingililia. Toa hapa.
Mimi nimeogoja tafadhali. Ni ukule hiyo chakula. Unaonwa saa hii. Kula. Very good girl. Very good girl. What? Nini? Tuko na emergency. Ile emergency ya we.
Nipatie hiyo 200.
Mama Kaya hii ndio wako nayo.
Mama Kaya nipatie 200.
Mimi mutaharibu kazi yangu.
Chukua kunywa kama unataka.
Unaniruhusia maji?
Toka.
Unajua hapo unaweza ungua maji.
Mimi niko sawa, ongeza tu kuni hapa.
Unasikia nanuka kama majari?
It's so refreshing.
Refreshing?
Naipenda.
Technology has become a crucial part of our society. Without technological advancements, so much of our everyday lives would be drastically different. As technology develops, it strives to fulfill the changing needs of society. This means that technology exists to help us achieve the things that we wouldn't be able to achieve without it. Take on Tech looks at the advantages and downside of technological innovation in a world that is becoming increasingly dependent on new digital technologies. Every Monday at 10:30 p.m.
Wakili Gesore has joined us. Wakili, good morning.
Good morning, Victor.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Asante sana.
We've not
seen each other. No, it's actually still safe to... Wait, bro, it's 24th of February.
Yes.
Do you know the year is almost gone?
That's how long we have not seen each other.
Merry Christmas. All right. Before I come to Gordon, let's just be fair. Again, before I come to you, let me take you through the front page of the local dailies, starting with the Standard. On the front page of the Standard newspaper, says that Turkana massacre. This is what's on the front page of the Standard newspaper, Turkana massacre. We have got an operation which happened there. A violent militia attack at Tudonyang, Lake Turkana, has claimed at least 20 lives and has left many injured. The assailants ambushed fishermen, sparking fears of escalating violence. And he continues that with casualties still unaccounted for, security forces are now scrambling to contain tension along the volatile Kenya-Ethiopia border region. That is on the front page of the Standard newspaper. Very quickly on the Star, how Mitumba has stifled Kenya's cloth production. Hey, sisi watu wa Mitumba, sasa hii ndio gani? Who has never gone to Gikomba? Crispus, have you ever been to Gikomba? Very good. Omao?
Yeah.
Very good. I met Crispus sometimes back in Gikomba, so that's what All right. So how Mitumba has stifled Kenya's cloth production. That is on the front page. Again, more tourists to visit Kenya, according to President William Ruto. There is a Norwegian cruise ship that docked at the port of Mombasa. And finally, retirees bear brand of Ruto M-Pesa rule. Okay, there's a figure here that the amount in shillings that given to poor citizens above 70 years or orphans is disabled in Kenya monthly is 2,000 shillings. So the move was aimed at easing access to funds by the elderly. So you can take a look at your favorite newspaper. I don't have the People Daily, but you can go and buy your favorite newspaper and read in details. I'll ask you a question each based on this moving forward. But let me come to you, Wakili. Based on the discussion that we're having here, what do you make of really what happened? The RSF, Kenya playing a key role, and now there's a government which is supposed to be announced very soon in that country. A charter has been formed. So much is happening. Somebody would say that syllabus inakimbia sana.
Yeah, it's moving fast.
Yeah.
And thank you for inviting me to this
Karibu,
show.
Karibu.
It's quite interesting to know that Kenya is a key player in the regional destabilization, if I may, as opposed to regional establishing of peace. Why am I saying so? The regime which is being supported by Kenya, which signed their deal, as you have already highlighted earlier, in Kenya, is the one which is likely to take over if the situation of M23 gets to Kinshasa. Well, where did they sign the agreement? Nairobi. How do you expect the relationship with the current sitting regime in Tshisekedi's regime in Kinshasa to just be friendly with Kenya? These are the people we're supposed to be doing business with. That is why I always ask the question, whose interests are we pursuing? Because if you want to do business with Victor, you recognize Victor and you have a cordial relationship with him. You don't back up Wadhiba to go and destabilize Victor and you want to do business with him. So that is the first question. Whose interest is Kenya pursuing? That is a critical question we need to establish as a country, as to whether our foreign policy is really ours or some other people's foreign interests. Could be we are getting a lot from these other people who are backing up to an extent that we can decide to destabilize our brother. The same thing has now, of course, happened with the support of RSF and the signing of the charter in Kenya, which they are going to establish a parallel government against a sitting government which is already established in Khartoum. There's something which has already been highlighted. Sudan has always been believed to be a country which supports terrorism. We have been bearing the brunt of terrorism. Sudan, previously, they hosted Osama, who later again came and hit us. Yeah, sure. So those elements, or the cells, the terror cells, which were perpetuating this kind of crime, could actually be still well alive. So it's only Osama who might have been killed, which we are not sure, 100% sure whether he was killed. They could, or sympathizers or business partners could also be able. The government itself has already issued a warning to Kenya and said, we don't know why Kenya will be wanting to be interested in our business. Yes, we are not interested in theirs. And we don't know why Kenya thinks that it will go scot-free by destabilizing us. So, you know, that's a direct warning. Diplomatically, you see, that's not something you can actually write off.
Yes.
It's something, somebody telling you, Victor, you're playing with me, and there are consequences. So I don't know, whoever's interest we are pursuing, whether they will protect us when that time comes. When we bear the brunt of being attacked, then you've highlighted, I think, the nation where the massacre, we're actually talking about massacre in our own soil.
Yeah,
that is the Oromos from Sudan. From Ethiopia, I mean. The Oromos have been having their kind of organization in Kenya. Understandably, they were chased out recently to their country, and this is giving back. You see, it's a direct injection. You chase us, we retaliate. So we need to find a common way of pursuing our peace agenda. We have seen enough from Somalia. But Somalia, we do understand that they are our neighbors and they are active terror cells, which we need to combat. But now we have Somalia, which is an active battle. We are opening one with Sudan. DRC, our other neighbors from the other side, also we are meddling. So we could understand Rwanda, they are immediate neighbors, and they bear the brunt of whatever that happens there. I don't understand the reason, the major reason why a country like Kenya, which should be the big brother in the region, who, when under Uhuru's leadership, invited DRC to be part of the East African community. And that, of course, when Nanga was signing his peace his charter in Serena, there was some cold blood. There was a lot of crises, and I think Kalonzo or somebody was sent to go and mediate the situation. So how long are we going to keep playing the big brother who is actually doing the carrot and stick? You know, that doesn't go well. We need to have a situation whereby, as a country, somebody believes in our strategy, knows that Kenya is a safe haven. We have previously been known as a place to host refugees from these countries. I mean, we have had the likes of Samba Mapangala come to Kenya and then go to wherever. Now we have changed that to hosting people who are going to destabilize. That is, I think, what I think we need to look at as a country and be able to determine what is exactly our foreign policy and who is it serving.
Okay, very good. You've talked of Sam Omar Mapangala, and I saw Gordon shaking his head. I don't know why.
Victor,
how fluid is our foreign policy? Is our democracy revolving? Are we trying to reinvent our democratic strength as Africa?
Victor, first, there are a few things that have been said that I think we need to get to understand maybe why and where they are coming from. Number one, why must Kenya get involved in the conversations around the conflicts within the Great Lakes region, all the way from Sudan down to Malawi and beyond? Number one, Kenya is the refuge for the entire region, East and Central Africa, designated UN refuge. when there is war in Sudan, when there is war in DRC, when there is war in Central African Republic, when people are being repatriated, the first evacuated rather, the first point of call is Nairobi. And that is something we agreed about many years ago. So when this happens, definitely Nairobi will feel the pinch. So why must Nairobi keep intervening in every situation around? To ensure that they are not overburdened by conflict that happens around. Remember, this country has been hosting up to over 1 million refugees, not just from immediate neighbors, but as far as Sudan, as far as DRC, we have so many Congolese around who are refugees, Rwandese, and all that. So it is important that we understand that first. Second, it is also important to understand that Kenya's foreign policy is a vast document. I'm not sure if we've all interacted with it, from the document of 2014 and to the recently launched document, which is an enhanced version of the 2014 document. We have to appreciate that Kenya is growing diplomatically. Kenya is growing democratically. And by growing, you have to accommodate. By accommodating, you will not choose who to accommodate, who not to accommodate. You will have to accommodate all. And at a point, you now have to discern how to go about the people you've accommodated. The issue of RSF, Kenya is not taking side at all. If you look at the statement by the CS, Foreign Affairs, and you also read the document, the Kenyan foreign policy document, it clearly tells you why Kenya is an interested party in Sudan. America, by August last year, America tried to bring the two warring parties on a table in Geneva. It did not happen. UAE tried to bring the two warring parties back in UAE last year. It did not happen. The war began when? 2023, April 15. Today the war is raging. Now, already we have, Kenya has RFS at their wings. Now they have the power to tell RSF that you must stop war immediately. So by them telling RSF you must stop war, there will be cessation of hostilities. Once you have cessation of hostilities, at least people will begin to resettle where they ran away from. And by that alone, you are now having an opportunity to engage the other side. Remember, in any negotiation, you must first get access to a party.
What does this really portend, Crispus? Because when you look at part of the, again, gentlemen, you also respond to all this one. According to the text of the charter, the signatories, I get it right, agreed that Sudan should be, quote unquote, a secular, democratic, non-centralized state with a single national army, though it preserved the right of armed groups to continue to exist.
That is controversial.
You get what I'm saying? So Kenya is neutral, yes, but with all this part of the charter being signed, of course it's going to be different. Crispus, do you really think then that the splinter group, RSF, and the current government, they are going to have trouble? What role do you think Kenya is going to play?
I think what we need to ask ourselves is first, does Kenya have the experience and the expertise to handle the kind of conflict we have in Sudan? And a good example of what is happening in Sudan.
Kenya knows Sudan pretty fine.
And whatever is happening in Sudan is a reflection of what happened in Libya, where we had factions of, I am this government, you are this government. Then there was a foreign interference where the French had an opinion, the Italians had their take, the Americans had their position. In the Sudan case right now, the UAE is a very big player because they are the ones who have been supporting RSF. The other factor that is in place is the resources RSF has full control of. This is the minerals in Darfur region. You've heard about gold, cobalt, and beef, which are things the UAE really has a lot of interest in. Now, if you look at the kind of things that are being played there, do we have the men and women in the diplomatic circles to be able to navigate all this and leave Kenya clean at the end of the game? That is a question we need to ask ourselves. Who do we have within the diplomatic circle that can be able to play the balancing act between RSF, the junta, the military junta there, and also the foreign interests that are at play in this country? And the possibility that out of all this, if we don't succeed, those so-called militias might become terrorist organizations that one day might also have refuge in Nairobi if you don't take good care of ourselves. Because if you are handling militias and allowing them to exist in your country in the form of forming of government, if they at one point feel that you're not playing by their side, and they leave elements within your boundaries to form a militia of sorts to destabilize even your own government, just like we have seen now, Oroma Liberation Army had been existing in some part of Kenya. We have now the Turkana massacre. We have our porous borders in Somalia. How safe are we? First, in terms of the diplomatic level skills and expertise, and number two, ability to defend ourselves militarily and also with the national police. So those are important questions we need to ask us. In my opinion, from the debacle of the AUC, I don't think we have the diplomatic capacity or even the ability to gather intelligence to tell us what is happening out there.
Victor, if you allow me to interject very diplomatically, are we doubting Kenya's diplomatic acumen when it comes to conflict resolutions? Since 1963, when Angola was in tatters, it's Kenya that stepped in and managed the whole situation. When Libya, not Libya, but when Liberia and Sierra Leone were ungovernable, a Kenyan Lieutenant General Opande led the entire mission there, and it was successful. Namibia, name it. There is nowhere that Kenya has ever set foot diplomatically and failed. It is given. Kenya has had,
but at some point it's in doubt.
Let me ask you.
I think we are mixing diplomatic and military intervention
for example,
through the UN.
The DRC, we were kicked out of DRC.
We were kicked after 3 months.
We were kicked out. In Haiti,
Why?
Which gang leader have we been able to arrest?
None.
So I am talking about this administration, the Kenya Kwanza administration, not the Kenya as a country. This does it have the ability to deal with the current emerging diplomatic issues in the world? That's the question we need to ask ourselves.
Yes, Thomas.
Victor, I like to buttress and also footnote what my brother Wadhimba said, and I like to support his point of view. We have different regimes and governments, and the current Kenya Kwanza regime has failed both at the diplomatic front and also on how we handle our foreign policy affairs. Like, for example, during the regime of President Uhuru Kenyatta, we realized that it was during that particular period whereby the Democratic Republic of the Congo was brought to be part and parcel of EAC. As we are currently speaking, we have 2 countries whose membership to the EAC are pending. That is Djibouti and also Sudan. So different governments and also different administrations come along with their foreign policy approaches. And I want to say that under this regime, we have a very weak diplomacy and also a very weak foreign policy approach to international relations. This is why I had indicated that we really need to be very, very much careful in how we are dealing with this situation in Sudan. Because at the long run, it's the Kenyan people who will bear this brunt. And if we are not keen enough, Kenya might be a target to terrorist groups. And this is something that we really need to be very, very much careful about. Failure to which we'll see serious repercussions in this country.
Okay.
Victor, you see, this is a scenario where you find yourself that you are leaving your house to burn so that you go save your neighbor's house.
Exactly.
You know, that situation does not work well with me, because as it stands, Kenya, we have enough internal turmoil. We have a lot of crises happening, which we have not fully contained. Now, we also have other emerging things or underlying things like the situation in Somalia, which we are also not fully in control of. When we have our neighbors, Ethiopia, also having a crisis which they have not fully solved, and then we are having our own situation with the cross-border Oromo people who are also who can come at will and deal with us. You see, some sorts. How will we be competent enough to sort a situation in northern Sudan, which crisis is far off as it stands? My brother Gordon has been able to highlight that we should not doubt our diplomatic capability. We do not doubt it. But then we should not be able to mix the situations which he has raised are fully organized UN missions, where Kenya has been invited to come and support. So that's a structured process. But this one is direct interference, or we are dealing with these people directly, and we are actually dealing with people whose fame is also in question. For example, the RSF and the dealing of the Janjaweed across in the Darfur. My brother Otimba has been able to highlight the underlying situation. People are supporting for resources. The Americans have been supporting the RSF for resources. The UAE is also a major beneficiary of the resources. What is the Kenyan interest in that crisis?
For the sake of the viewers out there.
What is Kenya's gold? Gold. There's a lot of gold.
Yes.
Yes, that's what has sustained that war in Darfur. Till I think when the Southern Sudan broke off, and then situation went down a little bit. But then, you see, like the situation in Sudan, in Southern Sudan, we were able to mediate it well. You know, that is a proper way of diplomatic engagement. Bringing all sides on the table, having the Naivasha talks, and then forming a government. That's very structured. Not like this one. This one, we are forming a rebel group from here to go and take over there. You see, as opposed to having all parties on the table, as what my brother Gordon was suggesting, that actually the Americans have tried to have the members of these two sides in Geneva, but they did not come. How about Kenya? We try that. We invite both parties to Nairobi, tell them, look here, guys, you don't need to fight. We need peace in this region. And Kenya tried earlier. When President Ruto became the president, he tried to negotiate, and even there was a lot of diplomatic tiff, because he wanted to give his statement as the elder brother. And those people warned him and told him, we cannot have Kenya as the person who is mediating this crisis. Now, fast forward 3 years, we are now imposing ourselves on one side and trying to take over from. You see, that is quite confrontational. Already they said they do not want us. So they said that they wanted the Egyptians. The Egyptians, I think, they advocated to go and mediate. So that is like going to force yourself to a brother's crisis which you have not been told, stay away. So there's no good solution which is going to come out of that. The only other thing is to have our own country being in a mess, which we cannot be able to handle.
So Gordon, remember earlier, sometimes earlier this year, they said RSF was sanctioned by the US because of widespread abuse and other atrocities, genocide, and etc., etc. And here Kenya is hosting the same group which was sanctioned by the US to sign a charter, and whatever happened. So where are we? Remember, Kenya is also a friend to the US.
Peter Pham, who was then in the Trump 1.0, was Trump's special envoy to Great Lakes region, currently the undersecretary in the State Department, alluded to the fact that America is highly likely to lift the sanctions that were placed there by the Biden administration through Blinken.
Okay.
That is before he was the undersecretary, appointed the undersecretary. Now he's the undersecretary. We've not had.
So the big boy is aware of the meeting in Nairobi?
Definitely. You wouldn't have a meeting in Nairobi if Uncle Sam isn't aware, my brother. Diplomatically, that is
not our interest.
Uncle Sam is very much aware.
It would not happen, diplomatically speaking. Kenya plays the big boy around, so it has, you know, the other day when the president had a phone call with Secretary Rubio. What are we talking about here? We have Sudan not experiencing this for the first time. This is the second time Sudan is experiencing a possible fallout from within. The first was with the Southerners. Yeah. Was well managed here. You remember when Ambassador Daniel Rachonyomboya led the talks from almost 1970s through to early 2000 when he left it to General Sumbeu, and General Sumbeu walked it through to Nyayo when we saw the charter being launched. Imagine all this time Kenya had a negotiation with the Southerners. Why sometimes we need to get our history correct? Throughout the Sudan conflict that led to the independence of the South, Kenya hosted the Southerners here in Nairobi. Throughout, had an array of negotiations. Northerners did not appear. But when the D-Day came, Omar el-Bashir came at Nyayo, and he endorsed what Kenya had always negotiated. That's notwithstanding. It is important also to note that in any form of conflict, there has to be someone who has to take the flak for it. And I think Kenya is ready to take flak for this and see it to fruition. Because if we don't, then Kenya will directly suffer the consequences that is in Darfur. In the early 2000s, Kenya suffered the consequences of Darfur. We had over 150,000 Sudanese from Darfur in Nairobi, in Kenya, as refugees. So when they are here, whose resources are they entitled to? Kenyan resources. So it is time that we look at the bigger picture, not at the administration in place. We look at the bigger picture, which is Kenya. Can Kenya really steer this to the end? I believe Kenya can steer this to the end. Remember, my brother here has mentioned the fact that Kenya was chased from DRC and blah, blah. Kenya being asked to leave DRC was out of Kenya's position that it held. Remember when Kenya went to DRC, number one thing was to create a buffer zone between the M23 and the government so that M23 doesn't advance. But when Kenya was there, what did the Tshisekedi government ask them? Please, you have the capability, fire back at the M23. They said, we are not firing back. We did not come to fight. So Tshisekedi told them, if you are not ready to fire, please leave. He brought in the South African forces. What happened when the South African forces tried to fire? They were killed.
Talk of DRC and talk of Tshisekedi. He's planning to form a government of national unity in response to the Eastern crisis. Let's take a look at that when you come back. Go on, take us on a break. Camera 4.
Let's take that break. We come back with the DRC on the case.
All right. You're not taking my job, I promise.
Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
Got the fear of missing out? Want to keep up with all the latest entertainment news and latest celebrity gossip? From the latest rumors to popping events to the newest fashion trends, here is where you get all the tea or juice when it comes to entertainment, and you get it served on time. All that and so much more on Grapevine every single Monday from 10 p.m. and a rerun every Tuesday from 2 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1. Remember, if you did not see it on Grapevine, then it most probably never happened.
Then just ask her out.
We were not that close. What if I ask her out and she refuses? It's awkward.
What's awkward about that?
Thank you for liking me and telling me your feelings. But I'm sorry. I'm enjoying my single life right now. I just want to be alone. I just broke free from a marriage and I don't want to jump into another one.
Welcome back. Africa's democracy test. That is what we're talking about here today. We've decided to drop current affairs in Kenya. We'll come back to that later on. It's always good to understand what is really happening across in our neighbor's house, so that you just don't go to bed while your neighbor's house is on fire. It might just extend to your house. So we have to extinguish it. Gentlemen, let's cross over and talk about what's happening in Congo. The Congo president, that is Tshisekedi, is now planning to have a unity government in response to Eastern crisis. That is as at yesterday, and he's ready to launch the government, according to the spokesperson. The M23's capture of the other side of the Eastern Congo and the valuable mineral deposits has actually fanned fears of a wider war and provoked some members of the fractious opposition to openly predict his presidency will not last. Crispus, this is heavy, that his presidency openly predicted. What is happening?
Well, if you look at the history of the DRC,
yes,
and go back to when Kabila came to power, there was an arrangement between Uganda, Rwanda, that once they assist Kabila to remove the then President Mobutu, they will be given a share of the resources around the eastern part of Congo. And when Kabila took power, he renegated on that arrangement. Then he was assassinated by his bodyguard, and his son was put in place. And the young Kabila was able to navigate this murky arrangement quite well, with very few casualties as compared to Tshisekedi we have seen for the last maybe 25 years or 26 thereof. And now when Tshisekedi came in, for him, he wants to really affirm the position of Congo as a sovereign nation without any foreign interference. And that is something which is not in tandem with the long-term agenda of Rwanda and Uganda. And as of today, the parts of southern Kivu and northern Kivu are controlled by M23, which in many diplomatic circles, many believe is supported by Rwandan government. And as of late last week, Bunia is now under the control of the Ugandan forces. So the whole agenda is coming to play, where the greater part of Eastern Congo is being controlled by its neighbors. And the only thing that those countries are looking for there is obviously the resources which are there. The Eastern Congo is very rich, both in terms of agriculture or even in terms of what is down there in terms of the mineral resources. But the challenge we have is that there are also human lives in that area. who are the biggest collateral damage in this pursuit of foreign interests.
Yes.
And Kenya, over the last couple of years, we have also got into Congo. And for us, we have gone what we call using the economic machinery with our big bank, East Equity Bank, which has been able to penetrate the economy of Congo, not just in the east, but also in the very extent of Kinshasa, where Equity was able to buy a local bank, and therefore, in the larger economy of Congo, Kenya is a big player. We have seen in the last administration, there were many economic missions that were made between the Ministry of Trade and Industry and the Equity Bank to take Kenyan entrepreneurs into Congo, to open opportunities. Even the bank itself had a bank credit facility of $5 billion accessible to Kenyan businesses as long as they're doing business in Congo. So the ball game has changed, where Kenya has a serious economic interest in Congo, but also the neighbors, the immediate neighbors of Congo, Eastern Congo, have a historical interest that they have to
But
pursue.
the war in Congo has been there for years, close to 30 years.
The question, the issue of the Banyamulenge and the so-called Rwandese war in Congo is just a pretext of the whole agenda. The main issue is interest. The Luos in Uganda and the Luos in Kenya, you cannot start telling the Luos in Uganda, come back to Kenya, because that's where you belong to. As long as the borders were made, where the border found you is your home country. You cannot start telling me to leave. So the so-called Banyamulenges, they speak the same language as the people in Rwanda. In Congolese, it's just a pretext. Destabilize people, but in that destabilization, there is an economic interest that is being pursued.
Yes, Thomas. Again, the question is, it's been here for close to 3 decades. When Kenya sent the troops in that country, people thought that it was going to be a walk in the park. But as it's turning out, Tshisekedi is now, somebody would say that it's being pushed to the wall.
Victor, we used to have a professor here in Kenya, and may his soul continue rest in peace. And that was, and he spoke this, that the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Which professor?
It was Professor Ali Mazirui.
Okay.
He used to have a YouTube series, and in one of the series he said that DRC is so fertile that if you dip your finger, it grows. What was he trying to say? That country has been endowed with numerous resources, so fertile. And that's why you see countries like Rwanda, the immediate neighbors, Rwanda, Uganda, are seriously interested. And at some point, my friend here, Wakili, I don't know whether you're aware that the DRC took Uganda to the ICJ for exploiting her mineral resources in Uganda, in Eastern DRC. So the crisis in Congo, especially the eastern part, oscillates around the mineral resources that that country has. And you find out, you realize that that country has a very weak military. Militarily, it's so weak. And that's why very small countries like Rwanda are making serious advancements into that region. From my seat, I think that a military solution cannot just work, cannot bring fruits. Those people need to come together. Rwanda needs to come together, the same to the DRC, so that they sit down and iron those problems amicably. Because there's no way you can say that the Banyamulenge, as my brother said, can be told to go back to Rwanda. Yet during the Berlin conference, when there were border demarcations, they just found themselves at the other side of DRC.
Yes.
So this is the question that needs to be addressed, that a military solution, in my opinion, should not be the way out.
That is, of course, what the president said the other day.
Yeah,
it's dialogue.
Yeah, dialogue. Yeah, because when you have a look at that terrain, the M23 are very much well versed with that particular terrain, and it will be a lot of injustice if you bring foreign troops, like what happened to South Africa. Those fellows were butchered in that region because Number one, they were not versed with that terrain. Number two, the weapons that the M23 had, they had very strong weapons that could not match the ones from those South African soldiers. And that's why if you had seen some clips going around social media platforms, even we had the mercenaries from Romania, they were apprehended and defeated by the M23. So I really think that the dialogue and the government of national unity should be the way forward to bring about an everlasting peace in that region.
And, you know, Wakili, the M23, they are advancing, and soon they'll be in Kinshasa.
Yes, I think, Victor, the situation as it is not a new situation. My brother Wadhimba has already highlighted that Uganda and Rwanda joined forces to install Desire Kabila in Kinshasa. The same way the M23 is trying to make a move is the same way Kabila benefited from the effort of the Uganda Defense Forces and the Rwandese Defense Forces, whose remnants are now the M23.
Yeah.
And of course, later, as my brothers highlighted, Uganda was actually taken to the ICJ, and they were fined for territorial aggression. And I don't know, they are still paying that fine because it was a huge fine. So for the Rwandese, I don't know why they were never taken to court, and M23 has been left to their devices, largely because of the border issue, because they are actually considered, they are Congolese. The Rwandese will always say it's not us, it's those ones who are on the other side. It's a safe argument, but which is very far from the truth. So what we are seeing is if they move to Bukavu, they take over Bukavu, the next frontier is Kisangani. After Kisangani, they will be in Kinshasa. And that is the same route they used to install Kabila. When they chased away Mobutu had to run. So I think Tshisekedi is feeling the cold, that now things are changing. That is why he's looking for a safe route, which has been highlighted that he was actually advised earlier that he can be able to negotiate with these people while it's early. But for him, he thought he is the president and he should be able to control the sovereignty and the territorial integrity of his country. But now, the situation is not the same. There is a likelihood that Nanga is going to take over from him if he sits pretty. So he has to negotiate a deal so that he can be able to safeguard his leadership and at least be able to have a unity government, which I highly advise that it's going to help sort the situation, because much as you're fighting over power, there are people who are dying. During Kabila was installed, it's rumored that there was a massacre which happened around the Bukavu area, between Bukavu and Kisangani, where quite a number of people were killed. Even the UN went and did a report, but it has never been released. Or if it were released, it has not been made public to everybody to actually follow through how many people died, who was responsible. That crisis has been swept under the rugs. That also raises wounds which are now going to be active. So the only thing is to have a peace negotiation which is going to help avert any other crisis which we don't want to have in this era. So I think it's a positive move if Tshisekedi has realized that he can be able to negotiate with these people, because it has proven they have taken over Goma. Goma is the largest city in the eastern side. Bukavu is the one which is on the southern side for that region. So these sections have already been taken.
Yes.
The other underlying issue, which we are also not talking about, is about the game of minerals. This is the region which is rich in minerals. As long as these people are fighting, somebody else is milking. And these people milking, who are the beneficiaries? Kagame has been able to point to South Africa. It's the South African companies doing the mining. So it was not safe for South Africa to also be involved in that crisis.
What is Kenya's interest?
Kenya is also a chief beneficiary. You have seen the king of Dubai being conned out of gold. That gold is not Kenyan. Gold is one which has come from those sides. So we are also a beneficiary. When they were attacking embassies in Kinshasa, allegedly yes, when they were attacking the embassies in Kinshasa, you saw Kenya's embassy was also being attacked. Why? We are safe. But people know people know where the crisis is. They know who is responsible.
Yes.
So as a big brother, I think we better support that negotiation so that peace is established, and then we can be able to trade, as Wadimba has highlighted, that we can be able to trade safely with the DRC.
All right. Gordon, is it about saving power for Tshisekedi or saving Congo?
Victor, Tshisekedi will come and go like any other leader. DRC is here to stay. So it is not the question of Tshisekedi, but the question of DRC. Last week, we had nearly all CDFs from the entire East African region in Nairobi. The matter on the table was DRC after the M23 indicated intention to continue advancing. So the CDF from all the East African countries were meeting here. The SADC CDFs were also meeting back in the southern parts of Africa to ensure that at least a semblance of negotiation is brought forth. We must all agree that what Tshisekedi is looking for today is what Kenya initially had asked Tshisekedi to do. That please don't be too rigid, soften the ground, let's negotiate. Negotiate with these guys. He did not. So it has come to his realization, well, this is what Kenya had asked me to do, this is what I'm asked to do. We must appreciate as Kenyans that it is time and point in life where maybe Ministry of Foreign Affairs must do a rigorous civic education about what our foreign policy is, so that in many fronts when we engage, we at least understand from what point of our foreign policy are we engaging. It will be very important. Maybe some of us are lucky to have a training in that particular line. So by training, you get to interact with all these documents. Notwithstanding, it is proper now that the entire East Africa region and SADC collaborate effectively to ensure that we stop any other advancement by M23, because when that happens, it could easily give rise to any other small groupings in the region that it is possible to take over.
A quick question. What is the solution?
Solution lies, any political solution, any political problem cannot be solved by military hardware.
Yes.
It is, we must look for a political solution to the political situation in DRC, not military solution.
Christmas.
My solution, Rwanda and Uganda, they need to stop interfering in the affairs of DRC Congo. DRC on itself must work on strengthening its institutions, whether it's the military, whether it's the economy, whether it's other organs of government that requires to show that this is a real sovereign nation. Because as far as we are concerned right now, as far as we can see right now, the DRC is a country which is easily exposed to any foreign changes. Trump, the swearing in of Trump triggered so many things across the world, including whatever is happening in DRC Congo. Because Joe Biden administration had a very keen interest on whatever is happening across the whole world, including DRC. But when Trump came in, he was very clear. I have no business on matter concerning the putting American money in foreign nations. So he pulled out. And Rwanda saw an opportunity. After all, if we support M23, there is no way America will come and tell us what to do. So they took advantage and ran for it. But they found a weak Congolese army, which is not able to defend itself. As of yesterday, 124 military forces from the DRC government joined the M23 in Bukavu.
1,800.
Yes. So you can imagine how weak that forces are. That the moment they see M23, they have no other option but to surrender and join the the militias. So at the end of probably this year, you'll end up seeing the whole of Eastern Congo being run by M23, Uganda, and probably Rwanda will come out clear and say, we are here to stay. So those are the challenges this administration needs to deal with, or this region needs to address with, so that we can find this. But as long as we don't have those issues addressed very well, we will still continue having the challenges of DRC.
Okay.
The so-called Interahamwe who went there in 1994, and we believe they have grown in population, they still feel they must come back to Rwanda. So also Rwanda needs to address the issue of its own refugees. There are many Rwandese who are scattered all over the world, not able to go back to their country. And they are being forced not to go back to their country.
Right.
As long as they are being pushed out there, they will still galvanize themselves with an agenda to go back home.
Very good.
And do with it.
Gentlemen, I want us to come back home briefly. And thank you for that, because I really want us to take a look at what's happening across our borders. As I had said earlier, is that you cannot go to bed while your neighbor's house is on fire. Kenya is a big brother in Africa, so to speak. Talk of Kenya. So, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka is to meet Raila Odinga today to have a future on what to happen in opposition. And according to the story is that Kalonzo insists that Raila Odinga alliance with President Ruto has tainted his legacy and only a political U-turn can restore it. And he's also said that he urges that if opposition unites, they can form a coalition reminiscent of the 2002 unity that ended KANU dominance. So, according to Kalonzo Musyoka, the decision by Kalonzo was reached after he met other opposition leaders, as well as former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua and DAP-K leader Eugene Wamalwa. So, Honorable Eugene Wamalwa, Kalonzo Musyoka is meeting Raila Odinga to convince him to come back to the opposition.
Okay, what's happening?
An interesting day.
A sign of weakness.
So, what I can say, Victor, is that the opposition political figureheads in the country are trying to come together.
Yes.
And this is what I like to say. If these political figureheads, that is from the opposition side,
yes,
if they come together and form a united political front against William Ruto, then I'll most probably say that William Ruto's Waterloo will be cooked at exactly 9 a.m. when we proceed with the elections of 2027.
Yes.
So, and depending on the behavior of Raila Odinga, now Raila Odinga has a bigger say on who becomes what, when, and how, or as we proceed to the elections of 2027. So that is why the president is trying to pull him back to his side, and at the same time the opposition figureheads are also trying to bring back Raila Odinga to their side. So if we have a united front against the Kenya Kwanza regime, then most probably we're likely to have a 2002 moment. Because if we remember, in the elections of 2002, we used to have those who had vied in the election of 1997. There were 3 candidates actually. We had Mwai Kibaki, we had Kijana Wamalwa. They came together and they formed a serious force to reckon with that sent the government candidate home. So as we head to the elections of 2027, the unity of purpose amongst the opposition operatives will determine whether they'll send William Ruto home.
Okay, an interesting days to come. I mean, somebody will say that Raila Odinga is like that beautiful lady. Everybody's now looking for her right now.
Yes, of
Daggers
course.
drawn.
Yes, that having been said, we cannot gainsay the efforts, or Raila has been able to endear himself to the Kenyan population. Everybody knows him. He's been able to endear himself to the bloodstream of the Kenyan politics. That you cannot talk about politics without mentioning him.
Sure.
But that, of course, clearly, I think a few days ago, we realized it's not the same for Africa, given by what transpired. So the only other way is for Raila to come back home. And that's what Kenya actually, most of the Kenyans, or a section of Kenyans were actually yearning for, that he should be able to come back home and then fight the ills, political ills that are happening. And it will be very interesting to see how he navigates the situation which exists now, given that Kalonzo also wants to meet him because he realized he cannot be able to make much of a political move or be a political force in the current situation without Raila. That is why he has actually to meet him.
Are we seeing a situation where Honorable Raila Odinga will work with Honorable Rigathi Gachagua? This is a question to all of you.
Rigathi himself has been open. When he was congratulating him, he said, go well, my brother, but if things don't work, come back, we work.
That's a gentleman's approach.
Yes, come back, we work. So even Rigathi himself is open to the possibility that they can join forces with Raila, because Raila is a major cog in the Kenyan politics. Sure. You have to have him in your quarter for you to be sure that you are having a serious political bid.
Gordon, beautiful days ahead, interesting. I don't know how you see it.
Who is supposed to convince who in that meeting?
Okay, Kalonzo is going to talk to Raila Odinga to come back to the opposition and build.
At the end of the meeting, who shall have convinced who? Those are the questions we need to ask ourselves. At the end of the meeting, you know, you can come to me, you want to convince me. But at the end of the meeting, shall have you convinced me or I shall have convinced
According to
you?
the standard, Kalonzo is going to convince Raila to come back.
Okay, let's wait and see.
Where did he go to? Christmas, where did he go to?
Let's see who shall have convinced you at the end of the meeting anyway.
Where did he go to? Kenya is an interesting country.
We need to reflect on the KANU NDP alliance, where Raila was able to join the Kenyatta Moi government. And when they were just preparing for the next general election, he exited. And he exited and left a shell of the KANU government. So I think it's too early to start telling Raila to leave Ruto's administration. They've just come in. Mbadi is a treasury boss. He's yet to unveil his budget of 2025-2026, which will definitely demonstrate the value the ODM luminaries brought to the Kenya Kwanza administration. They have not yet even cashed in terms of the cost they incurred or the price they paid to join government. So it's too early to start telling Raila to leave or his people to leave government. Let them stay there. What I challenge the opposition is to take advantage of the next 2 years or 1.5 years to build themselves as an opposition without Raila. Because there will be a point where Raila will not be there at all.
Sure.
And we cannot always be calling for Raila, even when he's not with us. We need to start cultivating a opposition which has no Raila for the sake of posterity.
Do you know how some people love that name in politics?
Victor,
if you know what I'm saying.
In 20 years' time, which other name are we going to use? It Wazimba or Gachagua or Ruto?
One thing we must do as Kenyans is to leverage on Raila's knowledge, Raila's vibrancy, energy, wisdom to the external world. Let us stop boxing Raila around. He has been into nearly half of cities in Africa in the last few months, just campaigning for AU seat. Raila has so much to offer to the continent and to the global stage than just thinking Raila. I want us to, when we begin to think about Raila, let us not think about Raila in Uasin Gishu, Raila in Bondo, Raila, no. Let us begin to see Raila in Dakar, Raila in Geneva, Raila in UAE, Raila in Berlin. Let us show the world what we have. Raila is a gem. Let us actually support where necessary so that we can take his expertise, his wisdom, his knowledge to the rest of the world, not just box him within.
What a better way to maliza?
Like the Sudan crisis, the DRC crisis, those are good things we can give Raila to handle.
But on the other side, we have tried that and it has failed on our
No. Let's try. But this business of Raila here with Sifuna and Sijio Sotati, we forget.
The gentleman who is talking is called Crispus Wathimba. He's an engineer by profession. He's also a public policy analyst. Thank you so much for joining us.
Karibu sana.
Thomas Omao, governance expert. Thomas, asante sana. Advocate of the High Court, a gentleman. Gibson Gesori, asante sana for joining us. And of course, Gordon Kachola, also foreign policy analyst. Gentlemen, asante sana for coming to the show. Always a pleasure having you here. And you as a viewer, let's do this again tomorrow. My name is Victor. Have a good morning. Bye-bye.
Technology has become a crucial part of our society. Without technological advancements, so much of our everyday lives would be drastically different. As technology develops, it strives to fulfill the changing needs of society. This means that technology exists to help us achieve the things that we wouldn't be able to achieve without it. Take on Tech looks at the advantages and downside of technological innovation in a world that is becoming increasingly dependent on new digital technologies. Every Monday at 10:30 p.m.
Pindi tunapowasha vifaa vyetu, tunapata fursa ya kutangamana na wasikilizaji wetu.
Karibu sana thĩinĩ wa tabarĩra ya Rwiga.
Tunapeperusha utangazaji uliobobea katika habari,
nĩ ũndũ wa macio na mangĩ maingĩ,
burudani,
nĩ harĩa tũkoragwo tũkĩigua nyĩmbo mwaki nyĩmbo hot,
na hamasisho la kiroho. Usiachwe nyuma. Jiunge nasi kwa safari ya kufana katika 99.5 FM. Soro FM.
Hii ni yako peke yako, maliza, hakuna mtu mwingine anakuingililia. Toa hapa.
Mimi nimegojea tafadhali. Ni ukule hiyo chakula unaonwa saa hii, kula. Very good girl. What? Nini? Tuko na emergency. Ile emergency ya we. Nipatie hiyo 200.
Mama Kaya ndio wako nayo.
Mama Kaya nipatie 200. Mimi mutaharibu kazi yangu.
Chukua kunywa kama unataka.
Unaniruhusia maji?
Toka.
Unajua hapo unaweza ungua maji.
Mimi niko sawa, ongeza tu kuni hapa.
Unasikia nanuka kama majari?
It's so refreshing.
Refreshing?
Naipenda.
I never heard the music so sweet. I repeat.
Wagwan, me brethren, big things are going. Remember, each and every Monday we have to share down the place with nothing but the best of smooth reggae vibes in your favorite station. You know these things, man.
Alafu kila Tuesday, kata simu tupo side, giving you Kenyan music from the 254.
And of course, you can spice up your Wednesday by enjoying blazing hot hip-hop and R&B jams.
We don't got no label. She say she want bottles.
Vibes and vibes as we go all across Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, all the way to Tanzania to give you nothing but the best on Afro Thursday. Make sure you make a date with us each and every single Friday with me, DJ_Liza Diva,
DJ Cold,
and me, Wanjiko. This is Club One Extra.
Unanifanya nisikie kunyongwa. Hadija ai, mani especially ukisonga. Friday night again.
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside.
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra niceness of reggae music,
extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice, we
have to do it twice.
Wellness is important in our daily lives so that instead of just surviving, we should be thriving.
Ways to prevent a stroke or heart attack is for you to know what conditions you have. By regular checkup, people don't know they have hypertension, they don't know they have diabetes.
I was pre-diabetic. I was afraid of getting lifestyle diseases because I come from a family that has lifestyle diseases.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
Right, welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. My name is Mike. We're going to talk about something different, and this concerns the Inua Jamii program. And already in studio, I'm joined by Moses Kamau, who is Director for Social Protection and Senior Citizens Affairs in the State Department for Social Protection and Senior Citizen Affairs. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mike.
How are you doing this morning?
Good morning. I'm well.
Yes.
Yes.
Nice. Now, let's get right into it. What is Inua Jamii and what does it do?
Inua Jamii is a national government safety net program that takes care of the most vulnerable population in the country. We are talking about the older persons who are 70 years and above, and also households with orphans and vulnerable children, and also persons with a severe disability, who in one way or another, they are not even able to feed themselves. They have economic challenges. They are poor, and so the government came up with this national safety net program so that we can cushion them from the adverse effects of poverty, so that they can be able even to have food on the table, take care of their health, and even some of them educate their children. Yeah, so it's a national safety net program that is purely funded by the government of Kenya.
Yes.
Yes.
How long has it been in operation?
Inua Jamii program has been there for over 20 years. It started in 2004 with a few households that were taking care of orphans and vulnerable children. A few years later, in 2007, the older persons were brought on board. 2009, the persons with the severe disabilities were included in the program. And it has grown in numbers from that time. We started with just slightly around 4,000 households at that time. Then we increased to 1,000 households, 1,500 households in every constituency. Right now, we are talking about 1.75 million beneficiaries throughout the country, in every village of this country, benefiting from this program. We have the largest share going to older persons, or the older persons cash transfer, which is universal. Anybody who hits 70 years and above is registered into the program, as long as you are not in any government pension. So we take care of those that have worked in the informal sector for many years, and they ended up being poor because of one reason or another, educating their children, building this country, and they do not have a pension. They didn't have a pension scheme. So those are the people that we take care of them. And also households that are taking care of orphans and vulnerable children, that may be children that have been left by their parents because of various reasons. Parents have passed on, and they are left with the relatives or their great parents. And also persons with severe disabilities. These are people who require 24-hour care for them to feed, to do the basic things. So we also facilitate the caregiver to take care of those persons with disabilities. So it has been there for over 20 years, and it has been growing, both technologically and in numbers, and even the funding from the government.
Yes.
Yes.
It has become more prevalent. You said it has been here for 20 years.
Yes.
But it has become more prevalent from around 2017, 2018. What was that?
Yeah. In 2018, the government then is the one that made the older person's cash transfer universal, such that everybody who was 70 years at that time, 2017, was included into the program. And that brought on board over 800,000 older persons into the program. So everybody now came to know about the program. And from that time, we have been increasing the numbers. And so every village in this country, you can't miss beneficiaries of Inua Jamii program. So it is prominent. It's only that sometimes government programs, we are not able to do what is called to advertise and to create awareness, but the program has been benefiting big number of persons, vulnerable people in this country. Yeah.
How have people been registering? What has been the registering process for the Inua Jamii program? Because this is a big program that, as you have said, is rolled out throughout the country.
Yes. Registration happens at the grassroots. At the grassroots level, right from the village. We want the people at the grassroots to identify among themselves those people who are vulnerable. So we involve the local administration, that is the chiefs, the assistant chiefs. We bring these people together, the communities together, and they are able to identify themselves, the most vulnerable among them. And from there, we're able to take their data and forward it to the national. We have a system at the headquarters, and for the 70 years, anybody who is 70 years and is not in pension, in a government pension, they get into the program. The other two programs, that is for the orphans and vulnerable children and for the persons with a severe disability, we do some vetting, because the funds that we have cannot be able to cater for each and every household that is vulnerable in this country. So we do a bit of vetting. We visit the households. We look at their socioeconomic status. What do they have? Do they have somebody who is working either in the formal or informal sector? Do they have any form of income? What properties do they own? We do a bit of vetting so that from there we subject them to PMT, the proxy means test. So we are able to pick only those that are most vulnerable within the community.
So how much are we talking about in terms of cash transfer amount to the beneficiaries?
Every beneficiary in the Inua Jamii cash transfer program receives Kenya shillings 2,000 every month. And I want to say that initially there were some delays in disbursement of these funds. But from the time this government came into being, from 2023 June, we have been paying this money on monthly basis without fail. So that these beneficiaries now, they can be able to plan themselves, because it's kind of a regular income, predictable. It's not where they used to wait for 3-4 months by monthly. We pay them on monthly basis, but the amount is Kenya shillings 2,000 per beneficiary.
Yes.
And this, I want Kenyans to understand, right now, by the end of this financial year, we have spent almost 41 billion for this program. And this is purely funded by the government of Kenya, the taxpayers' money from the exchequer. Yeah. So it's a huge program.
And given that you have said that, what can you say has been the impact of this program since its inception, or between 2018 and today?
There has been a lot of impact, known impact, because we go there to the field and we see older persons, their life expectancy has been, prolonged, because now they have food on their table. They can be able to take care of their medication. We have evidences where these older persons, some did not even have a house, what we can call a decent house.
Yes.
So, some of them have been, many of them have been able to build more, a decent house for themselves. They have, their social status has improved, because now they have some income. Their families, they are able to take care of them because they have something at the end of the month. So they don't neglect them. The issues of abuse and neglect, especially for the older person, is not there, has reduced, because these older persons has something at the end of the month that might even be shared by the whole household. So the welfare of the older persons has greatly improved. Not only that, we have seen some of these older persons educating their children, taking them to day schools, and they are able to pay using this money. Because if you look at the fees for the high schools, the secondary day schools, is around 10,000. They only pay for meals and all that. These older persons is getting 24,000 at the end of every year. So they are able to even educate some of their grandchildren. Those have been left by their, you know, their parents. So there's a lot of impact in the program has had over the years. And we have seen so many children getting care in terms of education, health, the persons with disabilities. When we provide something to this money to the caregiver, even that person with the disability is able to be taken care of in a better way than it used to be. So there is quite a lot of documented evidence that this fad has impact. Yes.
I know that there's a story on the front page of the Daily Nation.
Yes.
And they're saying retirees bear the brunt of Ruto M-Pesa rule. Many senior citizens have been locked out of the Inua Jamii program following President William Ruto's directive that all disbursements be done through mobile money wallets. This stems from SIM registration hitches, including having national identity numbers with 7 digits or deemed too old. How are you dealing with this?
Let me say, initially, up to last month, that is up to last month, we were paying using the banks, where they could go to the banks, line up for them to get their money. But now we came up with an innovation where they can receive their money, their funds, through the mobile money platform. Yeah. We are working with eCitizen and currently with Safaricom, so that this beneficiary does not have to go to the bank to queue or to wait for a long time, to walk a long journey to receive their money. So it is a new thing that we have introduced. And I want to assure you, out of the 1.7 beneficiaries that we paid last week, it was only last week that we rolled it out, up to this morning, 1.45 million beneficiaries have cashed out their funds. Most of them, they have cashed out their funds without even going to the M-Pesa agent. They just pull the money to their M-Pesa. They can buy goods, they can pay for services. And those that have to go to the agent, they're just going to the nearest M-Pesa agent. And they just dial *342#, and they are taken through a small journey and they get their money. The M-Pesa agent gets a message and they receive a message, and he's able to get his 2,000 cash without any cost. No charges, no traveling long distances. We are making it more accessible. So I want to say it has been a success, because out of the 1.7, 1.4 have already received. On the issue of the IDs that have 7 digits,
yes,
I think this is no. I have Safaricom have confirmed anybody within the Inua Jamii program can register, whether 7 or 8 digits. You can register your line. I think those are the people that didn't have, the older persons who didn't have the lines. But we are telling them now, let them go to any Safaricom agent. They will register their line, and they will immediately get a message that they have been allocated their Kenya shillings 2,000, and they can withdraw immediately.
Yes.
And that is what is happening right now as we speak.
Yes. Yeah, they're saying some elderly people do not have mobile phones, others are illiterate, and a few have fallen prey to wayward relatives entrusted with their mobile money wallet PIN number.
Yeah.
So how are we going to ensure that the money intended for the elderly people reach them, and in cases where they're facing fraud?
I think first I want to say we are using M-Pesa agents. Nobody should be able to withdraw somebody else's money without, I mean, he has to present himself with his national ID. So the agent is supposed to carry out due diligence to ensure that the person withdrawing the money is the owner of that ID, is in the program. So if there is any fraud that is going to take place, it can only take place within the family. Within the family, where the older person goes and withdraws the money and maybe is swindled within the family. But we have been talking with the agents have been trained. That is the Safaricom M-Pesa agents. They have been trained. They are supposed to ensure that they are paying the right person. So, but of course, the relatives, they are, within the family, those are issues that we are creating awareness, and even involving the national government administrative channels to ensure that the beneficiary, especially the older persons, they get their money and they are not frauded by mostly relatives. So, and I want to call upon relatives who are taking care of these older persons. Let them receive their money, let them decide what they want to do with their funds. Yes.
Do you have, this money that is released to older persons, and you have a record of the people who are supposed to receive this money, but then again, do you have proof of life checks in cases where some numbers, or do you have proof of life checks?
Yes. Initially, we used to pay using biometrics, and meaning that you use your fingerprints to receive your money. But now we have moved to a new payment model. This is the beginning. We are saying that the agent must prove that, use the ID to ensure that the person they are paying is the bona fide, is the real beneficiary of Inua Jamii.
Yes.
Moving forward, and we have had this discussion together with eCitizen and even Safaricom, they are going to roll out biometric payment, where still we use the fingerprint for you to receive your funds. We piloted this in Murang'a and Marsabit. They had some bit of challenge, but moving forward, we are going to make it better so that you use your fingerprints to receive your funds. Yes. Everything, when it's starting, it has its own teething problem. But I want to say we have received a big success when it comes to rolling out of this mobile money payment for the Inua Jamii beneficiaries.
What can you say has been the biggest challenge in running this program?
The biggest challenge, there are so many people who are vulnerable in this country. We may not be able to take care of them, all of them, especially persons with a disability, households that are taking care of orphans and vulnerable children. And the fiscal status, the financial status of the government may not be able to take care of everybody. So we have so many requests of people who want to be enrolled into the program, but due to the challenge, the fiscal space, we are not able to include them. So, but we want to appreciate that the government has made this a priority, as was directed by the president. This money is paid before the salaries of us civil servants are paid. And that is what happens every end of the month. We get, the National Treasury releases these funds before the salaries of the civil servants. So if the country, the economic status of this country was even will continue to improve, then we are able to bring more deserving cases, more vulnerable people into the program.
What is the role of Beneficiary Welfare Committee?
Beneficiary welfare committees are committees that are formed by beneficiaries themselves at the location level for advocacy, for passing of sharing of information, for reporting. In case a beneficiary has an issue or is deceased, then we get these reports from the beneficiary welfare committees. They play a critical role in our program, working together with local administration, our officers, the social protection officers, social development officers, children services officers, and the services from the National Council for Persons with Disability at the grassroots, so that they can give us reports. If somebody has passed on, if there is information that needs to be relayed to the beneficiaries, we use those grassroots structures. And the beneficiary welfare committees is one of those strong structures that we have.
And the impact has been positive?
Yeah, it has been positive. They are formed at location level and sometimes at sub-location level. And their leaders are beneficiaries themselves. So they are very critical structures.
If someone wants to lodge a complaint or has faced problem with the program, how do you lodge a complaint?
As I have said, we have offices all over the country. In every sub-county, we have a social development officer, we have a children services officer in every sub-county of this country. And at the county level, we also have those officers heading the counties, and we have disability services officers. So they can just go there to the office and say what is their problem, and that problem is escalated to us at the headquarters if the social development officer cannot be able to resolve it. But most of them are solved at the sub-county level. If you are not able to reach there, you can call a toll-free line, 1533. We have a call center where we are able to address all those issues. Again, now that we are working with Safaricom, if somebody has any issue concerning their line registration, you can call 100 and you'll be assisted by the Safaricom agents. And we are working together very well on that.
I think it's good to clarify that this is not a pension scheme, it's different from a pension scheme.
Yes, I want to clarify, especially because of that headline, because this is not a pension scheme. This is a safety net program. We do not include in our program those who are in pensions. They have other pension schemes. And if we realize, before we register you, we check whether you are in any other government pension program. So we do not include you. So this is not a pension program. It is a safety net program to take care of those who are vulnerable in our communities. It's not a pension program.
Yes. So how does the future look like now for Inua Jamii program? What are the plans?
We are going to make it better. We are going to leverage on technology, and we want to have a linkage between the registrar of persons, the civil registrar, that is the registrar of deaths and births and deaths, so that immediately, for example, an old person hits 70 years is picked automatically by our program. So we'll have a linkage between our consolidated cash transfer MIS, that is a management information system, with the CRS and the registrar of persons, so that once you hit 70 years, you are picked automatically by our program, so that we don't have to go to the field to tell people, come, we want to register you. We just want to pick. And also, when a beneficiary exits the program through death, we are also able to pick it automatically, so that we don't have to go through a process of looking for the death certificate, burial permit. We just want to integrate our systems. And this is working, it's work in progress. Already we are working on this. We have integrated with IPRS that for checking of the IDs and all that, the accuracy of the data of these people in our register. And moving forward, we want to make it even more automated.
Yes. Final words.
Final words I want to call to our beneficiaries. We have achieved quite a good progress in the last 1 week. As I've said, 1.4 million beneficiaries have already cashed out. Those beneficiaries without a Safaricom line, just kindly go and register. Once you register an M-Pesa line, you are going to get a message that you have been allocated Kenya shillings 2,000 from Inua Jamii. And you just go to the nearest M-Pesa agent, cash out the funds. That is what is happening right now. You don't need to struggle. You can even withdraw the money to your M-Pesa at the comfort of your house. And that is what we are looking for. Accessibility. Easy to access. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was our time.
Thank you.
Yes, that is Moses Kamau, who is a Director for Social Protection and Senior Citizen Affairs at the State Department for Social Protection and Senior Citizen Affairs, talking to us about the Inua Jamii program. This is where we end this conversation. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Mike Migu. Up next is Vivian Ndegwa with Family Check, and the question of the day is, do men learn from their past mistakes? Well, stay tuned for that. Good morning.
Wellness is important in our daily lives so that instead of just surviving, we should be thriving.
Ways to prevent a stroke or heart attack is for you to know what conditions you have by regular checkup. People don't know they have hypertension. People they don't know they have diabetes.
I was pre-diabetic. I was afraid of getting lifestyle diseases because I come from a family that has lifestyle diseases.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
Got the fear of missing out? Want to keep up with all the latest entertainment news and latest celebrity gossip? From the latest rumors to popping events to the newest fashion trends, here is where you get all the tea or juice when it comes to entertainment, and you get it served on time. All that and so much more on Grapevine every single Monday from 10 p.m. and a rerun every Tuesday from 2 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1. Remember, if you did not see it on Grapevine, then it most probably never happened.
Then just ask her out.
We were not that close. What if I ask her out and she refuses? It's awkward.
What's awkward about that?
Thank you for liking me and telling me your feelings. But I'm sorry. I'm enjoying my single life right now. I just want to be alone. I just broke free from a marriage and I don't want to jump into another one.
In a world where temperatures soar and ecosystems falter, the most vulnerable bear the brunt. Among them, women and children who face perilous journey through the changing climates. The main cause of climate change is burning fossil fuels such as coal, oil, and gas to produce energy, along with other human activities like cutting down forests and farming. This release sees heat-trapping pollution called greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, warming the planet and destabilizing the climate, especially in the arid and semi-arid areas across the country. The climate change in these areas has significant impacts on both women and children, and some of the effects in children include health risks such as severe droughts, floods, and air pollution, which expose children to malnutrition and diseases. Children often lack access to essential services like clean water, sanitation, and healthcare, and as climate change disrupts ecosystems, children are growing up in an increasingly hazardous world, threatening their health, nutrition, education, and overall development. Inconsistency in climate change has also resulted to major setbacks when it comes to women. For instance, health vulnerability, where pregnant women face extreme catastrophes like exacerbating risks related to maternal and child health. Severe climate changes also affect women's menstrual cycle, which may lead to stress and health concerns. Despite these climate change drawbacks, there are several solutions to protect women and children in the semi-arid and arid areas from the intense impacts of climate change, like developing and implementing policies that consider gender-specific vulnerabilities and needs. Promoting climate change literacy in schools and communities to help empower women to make informed decisions is another step to help protect women and children from severe climate change impacts. The government has put in measures to transition to clean energy sources to reduce air pollution and mitigate climate change, as well as improve access to clean water and sanitation facilities to help curb the issue of water scarcity and poor sanitation during climate changes. This will help promote both women and children well-being. Remember, change can only begin with you and me.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Good Morning Kenya. My name is Vivian Degwa. We turn things down a bit from our political segment and we get to our family check segment. And today our conversation actually came from last week's discussion where we were talking about, do women forgive and forget? Then another topic came up, and that is the topic we have today, where we are asking you, do men learn from past mistakes? Yes, that is the conversation we will be having today. We got to speak to a number of you on the streets. That will be going up in the middle of our conversation. But before that, allow me to introduce my panelists for this conversation. I have with me on my immediate left, we have Fred Abok. Fred Abok is a transformation speaker, a life coach, and pastor. Welcome to Good Morning Kenya. All right, and on my far left, we have Duncan Juma. Duncan Juma was here last week. He is a life coach. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Vivian.
It's a pleasure to have you gentlemen on set. I wish we had another lady on set, because I don't know how this conversation will go with both men here. I hope you're not going to be biased. But anyway, let's go with it. When we talk about one learning from their own mistakes. How does that look like, first of all?
Thank you, Vivian. I think that's both on the high rise and on the low. Either learning from past mistake involve being cautious, but of course also getting on the overdrive and doing it better. Doing it better in that you don't succumb into the same circumstance that you find yourself in on the past. But of course, to me, I measure it as a bit of cylindrical, in that it involves emotions, it involves the masculinity, and it also involves the environment at which you really want to make things show up for. So that it's systematic, that you find yourself trying to make things better than the way they were, or be cautious on how you do them this time around.
All right. Your thought on that, Duncan?
Well, I think the question, do men learn from their mistakes, was mischievous, especially based on the last kind of discussion where we were asking, do women forgive and forget? So it was essentially asking, do the men, maybe when they make relationship mistakes, do they really look like they learn? But in the broader sense of it, everyone learns from their mistakes. But then when you look
How
at...
does that look like, you learning from your mistakes?
Yes, and that's what I'm explaining, that it looks like you say, you know, I tasted vinegar and I want to prefer honey, and maybe there's a bit of change towards, you know, honey. So basically change of behavior, change of, you know, creation of boundaries, or looking like you have learned, or at least a bit more humility, or pretense that there's need for you to be humble. Yeah, so that would look like learning, so to say, in a nutshell. Yeah, so a bit of change, a bit of relooking at things differently, maybe changing of activity, workplace, moving places. That looks like lessons.
Yeah,
but of course the bigger question is whether that happens or not.
Or not, yeah. So is there a difference in how men and females approach them learning from their mistakes? Do you feel there is a difference in how men do it and how also women get to, you know, approach that?
Definitely. For women, women don't forgive, they accommodate. They can be there reminding you of your past mistake, but of course, due to circumstances, they got to be with you, regardless. And of course, popping them up. But men get to move on pretty fast because of their low emotional dynamic, in that they are focused onto what next and how to make things better. The reason why you find a man leave one wife with 2 children that he sire to go and be a responsible man of 4 children that he did not sire is basically to say that, yes, I move on and I'm looking for my peace and I'm looking for make up things better. Yes, and you know, still these children that are left on with this woman, he can still also take care of them. It's just showing that I am not emotional about what happened, but I'm out to make things better.
Okay. So there's clearly a difference in how females, you know, approach learning from their mistakes and how, compared to how male or men get to learn from their own mistakes.
Yeah, that's true, in the sense that, as we've been told, women reflect quite a little bit before they finally make that decision. It can take an emotional toll on them, as it has been explained. But I feel like for men, we sort of have a very short threshold to think it over, because we are heavily solution-centric. We kind of draw the line of best fit. Someone tells you they're having a headache, and you're like, you know what, a headache shouldn't kill you. There's war in Gaza, you know. So like, there's a way it could have been worse, and maybe we don't know how to communicate that. But in terms of then dealing with mistakes, sometimes there's a level at which also men take in too much, and rarely will it show up. And again, in the context of the society we live in, men have not been given space to be 100% themselves. So they have to live with a certain persona that society sort of accepts. For example, I can't be vulnerable. If I tell my family or my wife that we are broke and I'm trusting God, then perhaps what they are hearing is we are going to die tomorrow. And for me, then maybe I'll come and say, kuna deal, liko karibu kuiva, you know, so maybe, so how we unpack that also looks, but how ladies think and reflect, they think a little deeper, a lot more in terms of the consequences, the emotions involved. But for us, I think as men, we tend to reflect very briefly and sort of find out what's the line of best fit. How do I come out of here? What's the best fit for everyone? Yeah, so we are different in that sense.
Yeah, and maybe just still on that, how exactly or what factors get to influence, you know, on whether this man will get to learn from their mistake? Are there factors that influence that? We can still start with you.
Well, I think we're assuming that we learn, by and large, let me put it this way, men die, our life expectancy levels are lower than the last averaging was 57 for men in Kenya. I think 62, it went to 67 for the women. So there's also a silent assumption that, you know, you might go fast. And that's why you'll find even in HR circles, men are rarely the next of kin, you know. There's a sister, a mother, who is older than the man who is put on that list. And so
that's confirmed.
It's confirmed data. This is HR data. Men are rarely the next of kin, while you find that 90% of the men is their wife who is the next of kin and stuff like that. So how, because of that, again, do we learn from our mistakes? I think, look at the risk levels that men take. I mean, look at the people who put up, repair glasses on KICC or whatever. You know, almost all those, you know, when you look at that, then you ask, and I mean, it's also possible to see a man fall from there and then another one actually climbing up. So the question is, do we learn? Maybe, maybe not. But also there's a thrill of being a man. Think of it this way, maybe I should say it this way. Society hasn't allowed us to not make, to learn from our mistakes. For example, you will hear independent women, you've heard of that narrative, an independent woman, but when they tell you the kind of man they want a very traditional man, protective, provider, then you're like, same script, just a different format in terms of how it's dressed. So we rarely, I think, our risk appetite for risks tells us that we rarely learn from mistakes. And rarely do we also learn from other people's mistakes. There's something in the men's circles called something must kill a man. And so in that sense, we maybe the way to reflect it, you say we learn our lessons in a different way. Let me give an example. If I came to a space where I'm having an altercation maybe with my wife or girlfriend or whoever, and I have to be extremely vulnerable and say, yes, it is true, I did it, then looks like the power games there changes. So I would rather die than reach to a place. It is for you to discern and figure out that I'm saying I'm sorry, but I'm not going to kneel and, you know, katao at you because because of that, I may not look like I have learned, I may not look like I've not learned, but I may have learned. It's just that now how I confess my lessons looks different. And to that sense, it may look like we don't learn. However, having said that, many times when you look at our risk levels and the things we do for society, looks like we are going to be here for some time.
Yeah. We were talking, I got the point of rule number 1, deny. Rule number 2, refer to rule number 1. Rule number 3, refer to rule number 1 and 2. So it's deny. Do not accept your mistake.
That's not what I said.
You said something along those lines. And by the way, just what role exactly does one recognizing their mistake play in you learning now from the mistake?
I think the role of taking responsibility, of just doing up by as much as men do not really be vulnerable to an extent of accepting that, yes, I did a mistake. There is an element of taking responsibility out of what they did to make things better. And you know, men are solution-oriented. They really not much dwell on the past mistake. That's why if you find a man who is on a phone call with the mother for 30 minutes, man, something is wrong. But a woman can be on phone call for 1 hour, talking and repeating her everything. They want to be point
something is wrong when they're on call?
They are solution-oriented in that they want to, they want, what is the solution out of this? You know, what do I make out of it? If you find a man on the supermarket buying tomatoes and getting onto the greenery, he's simply telling the woman that I don't trust you with your finances. I don't want to make up things better. So I would rather buy them myself than giving you money and then begin to ask you later, how did you then spend the money? Because the other time you didn't spend it all right. So I would rather get on the butcher and, make up everything. As much as I want my family to have food, but on the other hand, I do not want to be back and forth because of the past spending. A woman will get in the supermarket and will finish 1 hour checking the expiry dates.
That's true.
Of what and how better this. Men, women, are they consumable? Are they, you look at the big picture, and that's it for a man. And so when a man takes responsibility, it simply shows that they have learned. If you guys had an alteration because it's coming at midnight, and then it begins coming early and watching on his sports and watching on soccer, and of course the remote is next to him, what you can only do for him is serve him a good coffee. And I'll tell him, why did you come back? I know I'm taking responsibility, and I don't want the quarrel we did last time.
Yeah. Can you say that, men's masculinity and just how maybe most men have been brought up, rather, and, them being expected to bounce back from things very quickly. A man is expected to just bounce back. You had this issue, maybe you were down for a minute, but you're expected to bounce back very quickly. Would you say that bounce back mentality may hinder, maybe a point where it's hindering their ability or your ability to get to take your time to reflect and learn the lesson that you were meant to learn while you were at that point where this was a mistake, I was at a low point?
Yes, and again, that undertone, the right there, tells us about how society sees men. Men are expected to look strong and be strong.
Yeah.
What men don't know is that every title you're given as a man has a financial implication. It has. Anytime they call you Bazoo, just know something is going to leave. As a matter of fact, you're rated based on your ability to look like you have it all together.
Yeah.
Think of even how society is. You meet a man molesting a lady in public, all the men will beat up that man. But if it's a lady is beating up a man, chances are the other men will be cheering him on. So this bounce back thing, I think there's a level at which men must start to understand that, one, they need to take care of themselves by nature, knowing that they are on their own. Because sometimes it is your bank balance that may be giving you room to buy whatever you're buying around yourself, and you might be very far away from your original GPS location. And so you must really reflect and look at yourself without necessarily the baggage of I'm providing, you're still good enough, whether your bank balance is nil or not. And at that point, if you make peace with that kind of little boy in you, you sort of okay. And this bouncing back, you don't have to look strong for society. There's a level at which you need. But to that end, the reason also I would have said earlier that men rarely learn from their mistakes is because men need a safety net in another man. But remember, men don't gather unless there's an alpha male in their midst. It's like, women can gather and you can see them crying with tissue throwing, saying that how that guy is the name of an animal, then all of a sudden they're okay holding hand with that guy who they call an animal in the supermarket. But for a man, when I'm coming to my fellow man, if I'm telling him a problem, it's because he has the ability to fix it. We don't share problems for the sake.
For empathy purposes.
Yes. And again, many times we deny others permission to jump into our situation. So I can come to him and say, hey, dude, I'm going through stuff with my relationship, but I'm working on it.
But you don't want to
right there, I have told you, yes, it is true, whatever rumors you hear, but I've also told you, you don't have to jump into it. And so by the time a man is asking for help, many times it's almost going down. So based on that, I think we must also learn that it's not about you bouncing back every now and then. It's also good to seek help early and perhaps look at the people who can support you. So you need a group of men who can actually tell you also you're goofing in that sense. But I don't think it's going to come from ladies. And I think ladies expect too much that men are going to bow down and look vulnerable before them. I don't think it's going to happen as long as Africa exists.
Okay. As long as Africa exists. Wow. Anyway, we got to speak to a number of you on the streets. So how about we get to listen in to some of your comments on this same conversation?
It's a very wrong notion that men do not learn from their mistakes. Actually, I think the perspective that people think that men do not learn from their mistakes has been turned on to men as an unfortunate thing. So for me, I think men can be really educated upon, being enhanced upon the knowledge of trying to get into nature of trying to be elevated from the nature of trying to get people to understand what men really want and men really want to do in their lives.
Actually, not the mistake. It depends with the character of someone, how someone has grown, his principles. There are some people who learn, some don't. Just like in school, there are some people who get knowledge, some don't.
Why should we learn? Under which book are we being told to learn? Historically, did Adam learn from Eve? Did Samson learn from Delilah? Has your father learned anything? Or did my father learn anything? The kind of situation that we are put through with our other gender makes us not learn. Just ask anybody, these young guys, if they are ready to marry, they will tell you no. Ask them why. Because of what they've undergone. And so why would you give them that opportunity to learn? It depends with an individual. But currently, even if you look at the current generation, 80% of them, they'll tell you that they are not even ready to courtship. That's why there's this unauthorized relationship. Look at these young ladies, look at these young boys. They'll tell you, even I have a son who tells me he doesn't think he's ready to mingle with this other nini. You ask them, what did they do to you? The first thing they tell you, they are not trustworthy.
They don't. I mean, once you're forgiven, si utaona ni kama huyu nikirudia tena atanisamehea tu, so you don't learn. You'll repeat the same mistake again and again.
Quite often men only probably seek medical checkup whenever they are sick. So they don't actually take care of their health. We only go to hospitals when we feel something is probably feeling some pain, or rather, when we feel something is extremely wrong with us. So I don't think we've learned from the past mistakes.
Yes, we do learn from our mistakes. So for me, the past mistake that I had learned from is from the Valentine's Day mistake. So I had not bought flowers for my girl, and I needed to have bought flowers for my girl. So she ended up like being so frustrated about my situation. But now I understand that flowers have a meaning towards something. So whatever mistake that you've made in the past, whatever it might be, men do learn from their mistakes and they do show up for the next thing, if it is like correcting the next thing.
Just assumptions that anything will change. But when you keep doing the same thing and expecting different results, that will not happen.
There are so many things which are going on right now. And there are so many dynamics which are going on right now. So I believe from time to time, there are so many things which are coming into relationships. Talk about finances, talk about family ties. So I believe we are not there yet, but it's something that we need to learn so that we don't become victims of what has happened in the past. So I believe there's more that men can do about the issues we just raised.
Well, and that is your say or your take. And I want to engage the gentleman in studio with me just to get to maybe respond to some of the things that have been said, I've picked on at least I think 3 or 4. There's the one who said it depends on their principles. One's principles may depend on whether they will learn from their mistake or not. There's one who was very brutal and he asked why. Why should we learn from our mistakes as men? Did Adam learn from, did Samson learn from Delilah's story? And then there's the other one who said, they actually do accept learning from their mistake and they realized they had not bought flowers for the girlfriend during Valentine's and it caused problems. So he learned that lesson. So and got to know that he should buy flowers. So maybe if you can just speak from the ones that we've gotten to listen from and just your response on that.
Yeah, I think quick one is the gentleman who highlighted about men not learning in terms of their self-care, that we only ask for help when it's really dire, and he's talking about at what point do we go for checkup, for example.
Oh, yeah,
I know very few men,
even
in these corporate organizations where there's maybe employee wellness programs, they'll tell you go check yourself for whether it's prostate or whatever. I know, unless unless there's something emerging, you know, there's someone who said, ile kitu unatafuta utaipata. So we don't go for checkup very early. Many times then things may have escalated, and that, in that sense, we don't know what we need to do so that we can learn and be better. But there's also a gentleman who talked about flowers. I mean, he learned if you, and someone said, if you, the only way to remember your girlfriend's birthday is to forget it once. And in that sense, you learn that this has consequences. However, sometimes we know the consequences, and because we want a little bit of banter, we want to sleep at peace, and you want her a little annoyed, you come without them so that it works magic. But to be fair, there is also someone who said, you know, why should we? I think there's a gentleman who highlighted even his son's issue.
Yeah.
There's an issue around maybe access levels to beauty, which is largely from a man's perspective, heavily pegged on your bank balance. And sometimes this young man who sees an age mate of sorts having access to maybe babas, for lack of a better word, and this guy doesn't have money, and these other shillings and all that. So the terrain is so unequal to a place where now you start asking, what lessons should we pick here? And you heard that there are sentiments around the boy child who's saying, you know what, this is unfair. However, those very boy children, when they start getting money, almost the cycle begins again. So do we learn? Maybe it's a question to continue asking.
Yeah. Fred?
Yeah, so basically from what the outcome is, men do learn. It's just that they learn from who? So you don't expect the person who created the mishap to again be the provider of the solution for a man to learn from. So men do learn. But of course, the masculinity, cylindrical man, put a man in cognizance of what they have not done right. And of course, on the process of learning, then they take the risk to do something better. Because men are both compassionate but also environmentally oriented, based on what happened where, determine how am I sorting out this situation. But of course, the fact that it happened, do we need to really dwell on it, or can we be able to change it and make it better? I'm struggling on to pay rent. But of course, I also still, on the other side, wants to maintain class. Do I get onto another environment and just make sure that my friends are limited? All right? But you know, what are the same focus? Do people eat? Do my kids go to school? And all these other aspects. Rather than how do my house look like and all these other things. So men do learn? Yes, they do. It's just that from who? They would rather learn from the compartment, but not necessarily will they learn from the person who orchestrated the situation. Yeah.
There's the one who talked about it depends on one's principles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we learn, it's just as he has said, our learning is different. Because sometimes when you ask the question, do men learn from their mistakes, we're almost saying we have a script and we need to see how the lessons go. Yeah, but by and large, we're also saying we learn. I mean, we learn from our past mistakes, and it's just that also the space to be forgiven, to say you've learned, sometimes is missing. So, and those are conversations that we must continually have to keep. Another aspect around whether we actually get to fully learn, there are mistakes that we will continually sort of do to ourselves or to the people around us if we don't reflect enough. But is the space enough? The life of a man, sort of, you wake up, you're supposed to provide for your family and all that, and almost like work starts to give meaning to a man, which I don't think it gives meaning to the ladies as much. A man, there is no man who doesn't want to provide for his woman, for his children. There's no man. So in that sense, work gives men purpose. And so if you make mistakes in the course of doing that, rarely are you forgiven. Maybe you think of scenarios where your rent is late. And sometimes, I mean, how many times have you heard people say the lady has a private account? And you know, and many times, think of it this way, there are spaces where a man can access the woman's money at zero interest, but always it comes with conditions. Nimeomba kwa chama, lazima urudishe. You know, make sure you bring it back. So then in that sense, he knows he's doing the donkey work and maybe help may not be on the way. So in that sense, they almost charter their own journey slightly within, yet still lending themselves to giving meaning to saying, I'm providing for my family. But there are mistakes that also are brutal to confess and say you've learned from. And sometimes men die with those mistakes. And, you know, there are times people go to heaven, then you discover they have been living with other mistakes around. And so in that sense, do we learn? Maybe if peace comes from away, maybe we may not look like we learned. But then the question is, what are we looking for as we look like we are not learning the mistakes? I've said so many things right there, but I pray there's wisdom to
Actually,
unpack.
There's something you've said. I can see you want to say something on that, but still maybe on that, there's something you've said that I had a question on the same, whereby the question was, are there particular or certain areas where men are more likely to learn from their mistakes other than other areas of their lives?
Yes, we do. I mean, COVID came, sorry to just jump in there then give him a chance. COVID came and taught us that maybe providing may not be the only way that should define who we are, because times came when the ladies are bringing in the bread, and there was a lot of imbalance. So there are times and opportunities where you actually get to learn that you pick your lessons from your mistakes, maybe opening other channels of bringing income and stuff like that. So they are there. It's just that, as I mentioned, do we pick our lessons with the people we're living? Because sometimes the assumption also is that it's the people who are causing or picking the mistakes that we should be vulnerable and say we've learned lessons or behave like we. But there are many faces to a man outside that combination that may look. Men love toys, for example. They just get more expensive with time. Men try, if the person with pressure within the house keeps inserting, you live beyond your means, but are you learning? You know, those are the questions. But go ahead.
Okay.
I think when it comes down to principles, men do not have a particular pattern of learning. And that's why men have a challenge of being very effective in a class setup, but rather than in a social aspect. So when you are dealing with a man, especially in a counseling, a man wants to maybe hear your story on what you went through, so that you do not look like an angel that has landed from heaven and you have a masterpiece of all that is going on, and you want to make it transferable to them. But rather, when I got into this situation, they may not be the same, but these are some of the maneuvers that I did, and not necessarily telling him that this is what you ought to do. They pick one or two things that they can be able to do different out of your story. They will always learn on from you out of your basically what you've gone through. And that's why in a setup of where men are gathered and they are talking, and especially in a social setup, you will find people sharing stories, and men will be very keen about how someone has actually get out of a quagmire and be able to success or pick up themselves out of a distorted situation and align to their purpose. They will maybe ask a question, a provoking question later, that make you sense that, oh, this guy was attentive to what I was sharing. But basically, you are not targeting them. Yes.
Yeah, and on the matter of whether there are particular areas that men are likely to learn from their mistakes rather than other areas, like is that a thing?
Definitely. Of course, once beaten, twice shy. They become more conscious. You know, when you're dealing with a failed marriage, you're a bit more conscious, and you'll find a man vulnerable to their wives. Not because that's a system of how to do things, but they do not want to find themselves in the same setup again and being looked at, because men are very conscious about the environment. What are people saying about me out there? They want to carry a name that goes on behind them. You know, a woman will divorce and get married on here and still vie on for a position of an MP. Or a man you try to be a chairman of Nyumba Kumi, people ask you, who's your wife?
Yeah.
And you know, that's the last thing that a man would want to hear if he doesn't have. And maybe if somebody know that it failed. So they will be cautious about those process and being a bit more vulnerable to those situations so that it doesn't repeat again.
Yeah. As we almost come to a close of this conversation, maybe can one's upbringing or one's culture affect their ability to get to be open to learning from their mistakes?
Yeah, of course. In psychology, we say nature, nurture. There are contexts that make us behave in a certain kind of way. Like from where I come from, it's not easy for a man to be vulnerable. You're taught to be tough, to look tough, and in that sense, then you don't share your issues. You know, in public, you don't pour dirty linen in public. You raise. How many times you see a daughter being raised, and everyone is calling them an angel, princess, you know, and mostly it's their father doing that. But to a man, you fall down there like mwanaume kaza, you know, ngangari, you know, things like that. So be a man, you know, so which is not very defined. So environment has heavily a way of defining. How many of us live beyond our means because our friends look like they have it together because we don't know the outer story? Yeah. How many of us don't take care of their health because mbinguni tutapewa mwili mpya, you know? So there are contexts that allow you not to be. And by the way, even when I mentioned about the COVID context, and reaching a place to say, I am down and I need to maybe cut down, because men rarely want to, if you're in a particular cadre or in a particular level of your life, rarely do you want to go slightly lower. And maybe that could be the right step you need to make for you to go to that next step. So the environment, if everyone around you has a car, there's a chance you can easily get depressed because you feel like you've been left out. And I think those are learnings we must. So nature, but also some personalities, you know. There are people who are very outspoken, and chances of them saying something or their mouth getting them into more trouble than ever before than others is easier. So again, wiring, nature, but also environment as well.
Okay. And we need to finish.
Of course, there are the three principles that men are raised up on.
Very quickly.
Yeah. They're naturally meant on to be priests.
Okay, priests.
They need to call forth, and of course they need to be princes. They need to be prince, in that they stand out, and of course they need to be providers.
Okay.
And that's why the bill always come onto the side of the man.
All right, we have to wind up. Goodbye.
Technology has become a crucial part of our society. Without technological advancements, so much of our everyday lives would be drastically different. As technology develops, it strives to fulfill the changing needs of society. This means that technology exists to help us achieve the things that we wouldn't be able to achieve without it. Take on Tech looks at the advantages and downside of technological innovation in a world that is becoming increasingly dependent on new digital technologies. Every Monday at 10:30 p.m.
Hii ni yago. Peke yako malisa hakuna mtu mwingine anakuingililia. Toa hapa. Mimi nimeogozwa tafadhali.
Ni ukule hiyo chakula. Unaonwa saa hii kula. Hargod gal. Hargod gal. Nini?
Tuko na emergency.
Ile emergency ya
nipatie hiyo 200.
Mama Kaya ndio wako nayo.
Mama Kaya nipatie 200.
Mimi mutaharibu kazi yangu.
Chukua kunywa kama unataka.
Unaniruhusia maji?
Toka.
Unajua hapo unaweza ungua maji.
Mimi niko sawa, ongeza tu kuni hapa.
Unasikia nanuka kama majari?
It's so refreshing.
Refreshing?
Naipenda.
Nation. It is part of the Great Rift Valley, which is considered as the cradle of man. Its diverse peoples, rich flora and fauna make it a destination of choice for ecotourism enthusiasts. Turkana County, located in northern Kenya, is a microcosm of the country. It is rich in cultural heritage, natural resources, and unique landscapes. Known for its vast arid landscapes, Turkana County is home to the Turkana people. Its 926,976 strong population makes it one of Kenya's major ethnic groups. The Turkana have lived in this region for centuries, adapting to its challenging environment. The people have offered their name to a remarkable natural wonder with which nature has so generously blessed them. Lake Turkana is the largest desert lake in the world. The 7,560 kilometer square lake spans the borders of Kenya and Ethiopia. For the Turkana community on the Kenyan side and the Merile on the Ethiopian side, Lake Turkana holds great ecological and cultural significance. However, the region faces serious challenges that threaten its delicate ecosystem and, by extension, the livelihood of the community. Turkana County is heavily dependent on pastoralism and fishing, but the prolonged dry spells and resultant severe weather patterns observed in the recent past are placing immense strain, especially on the fishing community.
I've been brought up in this area. I have experienced severe droughts, severe bad rains happening in this area, especially during dry seasons.
It's a semi-arid area, so over time we've seen the drought change. So before we used to get a drought every 10 years, and that's not, odd. In 1980 we had a drought, and then about 10 years later in 1990, 1991. But now we're seeing it's going, more frequent. So every 5 years you get a drought.
So now when there is drought, fish become less in the lake when you go fishing since there are no rains. Fish are only plenty in the lake when it rains and water fills the lake.
The prolonged drought has increased the number of fishermen and has also forced them to go farther into the lake in search of fish.
That drought affected our fisher folk. It also affected our pastoralists. Everybody who lost livestock, including even in places in Loima or even Turkana South, people migrated now to the lake because the lake remains a resource that actually will even nurture survival of our people.
Very little research has been done to understand the impact of man-made activities, but also the climate crisis on the production of the fish. So with too many people going to the lake to fish, it means that they're actually fishing into the breeding zones.
From 2019, when we moved here in Todonyang, it was difficult to get fish because it wasn't raining. We're forced to go far into the delta where our neighbors, the Dasanach or Merile, are.
According to the county government, more than 380,000 livestock was lost to the drought. Most families then turned to fishing as an alternative means of livelihood.
I know this is a natural calamity which is not controlled. We neither control, neither do our local community control. But measures in place is that besides us depending on God himself, there are things that have caused the drought. Probably the issue to do with deforestation, which is people have also cut trees, and those are the things probably want to see that how do we, what alternatives do we have to improve the climate changes.
Turkana County has experienced 2 consecutive years of intense drought. The lake was hard hit and the means of subsistence simply devastated. Fish and other wildlife perished as the water receded. Worse still, when the rains finally arrived, they caused excessive flooding, displacing hundreds of families.
If you ask our parents, they'll tell you that this place where we are had been covered with waters of the lake, but then over time it became a dry land due to drought. We got deceived by that phenomena and we moved closer, and recently we got punished. There were floods everywhere which submerged houses we had built by the shores of the lake.
With the receding lake, a vital lifeline for both the Turkanas in Kenya and the Merile in Ethiopia has been tampered with. This has sparked persistent conflict between these communities that once peacefully enjoyed the bountiful harvest of
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Masharia.
People who lose their livestock, they have to move towards the lake so that they are able to sustain themselves through fishing. They can fish and eat fish. As the demand for fish increases, also the conflict increases in the lake. So every time we are losing people are being killed in the lake, people are being... the fishing gears like fishing nets and boats are being taken away.
The biggest challenge is fighting with them because they also fish on our side. There is stealing of nets and there is killing of one another, which is a norm. So everyone has his own gun because with it you can go to fish in places where other fisher folks fear going to.
Simon has been a victim of the conflict.
I was hit with a bullet by the Merile, our neighbors. They came at night around 8 p.m. while we were carrying on with our fishing business as usual. They found us there and started shooting at us. The bullet hit me here. It hit me here because I was lying down. It would have hit my head, but then it passed over my chest. Another one hit me here on the leg. I got shot on my right leg and it passed through here. 2 young men died on the spot. Another one sustained serious injuries and even got referred to Eldoret.
Similar echoes can be heard from pastoralists and fishermen in the Merile community on the Ethiopian side of the lake.
Turkanas come here every day, and when they come, they kill Dasanaks. They also take Dasanaks cows. There's a place called Lobelele, another one called Karainugur. We were born in those places, but Turkanas chased us away. So if you cross Marura slightly towards the middle of the lake, you will be entering Turkana. This side is Ethiopia, and the other side is Kenya. Both the Dasanaks and Turkanas feed on the fish in the lake. So now we want peace because on the other side of Kenya, there are thieves as well as on this side.
Members of both communities trade accusations as to who the aggressor is. Luckily, there is relative calm as the Turkana and Merile have embraced a ceasefire and advocate for peace.
Now, I would like to urge Kenyans to tell their people to rise and embrace peace. Fish are plenty at the borderline where there is conflict. Kenya and Ethiopia should talk to each other and stop conflict.
We've tried to manage through our elders, our peace committees, through the government also, through some interventions like putting dialogues to ensure that at least these communities come together, they sit and agree. Because if they don't sit together, no one is going to utilize the fish in the lake. No one is going to utilize the water. No one is going to utilize the pasture.
Apart from the conflict, the increase in fishermen also has a direct effect on the ecosystem of the lake.
One of the key things that we've seen is an increase in overfishing. There's a market in the Congo, so especially undersized fishing. There is a regulation around what size fish sizes should be gotten out of the lake. But then there's an increase because of this competition. Many people
in the lake, they went as far as even catching the small fish.
In spite of the significant challenges posed by the drought, The communities surrounding Lake Turkana have demonstrated remarkable resilience. Various stakeholders are actively working towards mitigating the impacts and enhancing livelihoods.
We must ensure that a resource such as the lake is properly managed, and then we've set the beach management units, which are so many. They stretch from all the way from Kalokol, Ninikerio to Todonyang.
Some of the initiatives we as Friends of Lake Turkana have been doing is making sure that we champion and advocate against the destruction of Lake Turkana. We're working with the beach management units because there's this perception that Lake Turkana is underutilized. In the process, there's just too much resources that is being extracted from it without understanding how to sustainably use Lake Turkana. But more and more is really trying to build community power, community assemblies, community organizing, because this is a community resource and it can only be sustainably built and sustainably used when communities understand that this resource is for a previous generation, for the current generation and for future generations.
Even with the challenges, Simon has no plans to give up on fishing. He, like many others in Turkana County, hopes that peace will prevail and that the climatic conditions will improve.
This is now like my shop. I do not have any other place with goats, cows or donkeys. So I fish to earn a living. I beseech the government to implore our neighbors to unite with us. They can then be offered boats and nets which will make us stop stealing and killing each other.
Then just ask her out.
But we're not that close. What if I ask her out and she refuses? It's awkward.
What's awkward about that?
Thank you for liking me and telling me your feelings, but I'm sorry.